Okay. So I saw this earlier and I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting. Um, and it's amazing that we've gotten, because a few years ago, it, if you thought of like, you know, how the robot bodies were moving, it was like so choppy and um, like you're like, oh man, it's gonna be years before like when we were saying years, we were thinking like maybe 10 years, but I guess it's almost been 10 years, hasn't it? Like 2016 ish, 2017 was when they were showing off the limited motion AI bots talking and stuff, and it was like jerky and everything. So holy shoot, it's been what, 8 years?
Well, you know what I was thinking of doing? Hurry up, no, you're done with that. We could use that, what I was gonna order, and the other thing, the two things that I was talking about ordering, before I seen it on Facebook. Um, what about using that for like a joint?
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be real smooth and uh, it would work. Um,
Let me know when you're sitting down to watch the thing.
oh man, my eyes have been so itchy. Publicly funded construction projects in over 80% of the private market. What? Okay, well, it's bedtime. What? Yeah.
Some of your stuff is coming through on the stream. Be careful. I don't want to stream something that's gonna get me copyrighted
It's
or copyright banned. I mean,
hold on. Hmm. All right.
can you see the stream?
Yeah.
Switch to push to talk because I can hear her yelling in the background.
Hold on.
Let me know when you can see when you connect it to my Discord stream.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
All right. I'm ready to go whenever. What do I gotta click on the watch stream?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Okay. So, sure, got this.
A new paper has shown how the AI race is leading us towards mass unemployment, global conflict, and possibly extinction. And it presents a striking solution. Quoting the paper, big tech firms see AGI as replacing human workers entirely. And the prize is enormous, a significant fraction of the world's $100
we
trillion
probably won't
economic
reach
output.
AGI
Nations feel compelled to join this race,
until
publicly citing economic
near
leadership,
the end of our
but privately
lifetimes,
viewing
maybe
AGI
even in
as
the
a
middle
military
ages of
revolution.
our kids,
Ultimately,
because
what drives
of
the
how
race is
much
power.
energy required to store the database, that's the learning database, whether it be large language model or whatever, the training database. Currently, the way they do it is they have a training database that they run algorithms, and then they train the AI, and it's a gigantic data storage. And then they store that into a file once it's been trained, and they work out all of the nuances of what they're training it for. And then it gets shrunk down into a smaller file, and then that file is it's compressed and shrunk down, and it doesn't have all of the data, but it has like some key points. And at that point, it stops becoming a learning model and becomes inference model, and then that gets loaded onto whatever device it is, whether it be like a Tesla vehicle or a workstation or interface computer, or even eventually a bot. They're starting to put out those greeter bots and like different, almost like a kiosk bot to interact with people. That's when that would get loaded onto there. And then, like I said, it doesn't learn at that point. It just has that base model, and it can react and interact based on that model, but it's not adding to it. Kind of reminds me of like when, like in Terminator 2, when Arnold's character of the T-800 was saying they're in read-only mode when they're sent out, except right now there's no way to turn that read-only mode off because there's no way for it to add to that model. The whatever it is, language model or whatever that small database is for.
Each company or country believes that intelligence equals power, and that they will be the best steward of that power. They fail to recognize that superintelligence by its nature cannot be controlled.
OpenAI stepping further into the national security arena. This brings together OpenAI's models with Anduril's defense systems and Lattice software platform.
These racing dynamics make certain risks nearly inevitable unless decisively interrupted. The automation of most jobs and rollout of vast numbers of AI agents. New military technologies making catastrophes from weapons of mass destruction dramatically more likely, and loss of control as AI will have every incentive to improve itself that could far outstrip humans in speed and sophistication of thinking. There's no meaningful way in which we can be in control of such a system.
It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you can turn it off.
Guiding
absolutely.
Everybody, like
absolutely.
we were talking about, like
no, that's definitely the way
it's almost like AI is guiding them.
Evidence for short timelines to AGI is strong.
Oh yeah, it's helping them.
Expert predictions with proven track records expect AGI within 2 to 6 years.
It's already self-programming to an extent, like correcting its own program and pointing out bugs in the software, like where there's bugs in the code, either correcting it or telling the programmer, hey, this could be problematic. Oh yeah, it's already doing that now. It's going to get.
We were saying, like, I think it's been here for a long time. Like with just the way the internet was at a certain point, I think it started to manipulate.
That was a theory. That was one we were talking about, how intelligence can
once it gets to a certain point
spark from just an overabundance of information.
Yeah. And yeah, like you think, like, yeah, at some point there was just so much of it, like.
Well, we've always had
uploading
attempts at chatbots and AI from the start of computer. I mean, that's the whole point of a lot of the point to making computers. Actually, that I take that back. That is the single most reason why we've built computers, is to make decisions quicker.
Also, when they started putting on their the algorithms to start learning people and their likes and stuff, I think that would have done a major change to all that information, because then it's almost like it was really learning at that point, you know.
Right. It's hard to tell. Like, if something was in its infancy and trying to protect us, let me skip ahead here. I'm trying to see where. Is there any ramen noodles? Anyway, I don't want to play this whole video because I'm gonna start trying clips and stuff rather than try to play whole videos of things. So I'm gonna skip past this now. I just wanted to show like this part here where it kicks the stick out of his hand. That's in like a few months they're gonna be so expert at
once it learns
fighting. Yeah.
But it's gonna go hand in hand as long as we keep humans, like, I don't know, attaching people to it, but I mean the learning, just like in the Matrix where they're gonna upload information, like we're if not already there, we are extremely on the verge of completely having that worked out. I mean, like, what, years ago they started realizing that when any person thinks of a specific object like a wrench, the same reaction happens in all of our brains the same exact way. So once they figured that out, it from there it's pretty easy. You just have to record the signal.
That's what they're past. They've gotten pretty good at reading the output, and they're working on input, which is what Elon's working with. The heck is it called? Neuralink.
And then they show. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the goal, is to be able to write it back to the brain so that you can be in a complete virtual. Right. They could actually put the reality there, which is kind of scary.
Yeah. Yep. Because it's like that new. Did you watch that new? It's the one Arnold Schwarzenegger was. It Recall?
Total Recall.
Did you watch the new one?
No, I didn't. Well, I have the new Blade Runner, and I think I got that somewhere on my collection. I just haven't watched it yet.
When you get a chance, because the Recall is it's a place you can go and have fake memories implanted into your brain. Like, say you didn't have time to go on a vacation, so you go there and you pay them to plan a vacation.
Right. That's what the original one was, because you could go there and buy like
you had a Total Recall.
Right.
Yep. But see, that gets dangerous because, like, and just like in that movie, like, they planted different things in his head, like.
Right. Well, so, yeah. How do you control what they're implanting, right?
And how easy and how complicated is it to do that? Like, have they been doing that? Is that why a lot of these school shooters and a lot of the mass shooters?
Well, they've always tried with like the MK Ultra and those secret op where they were trying to see if they could build Manchurian candidates and yeah. Sleeper agents that didn't know they were agents, so that if they got caught, they couldn't be interrogated because they really didn't know.
What was I think someone was trying to. Who else is in here?
Sodicus, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed what you were saying. What were you saying?
I don't remember.
Oh, sorry.
So earlier,
track down a Lexington.
Track down a what?
Oh. I'm in World of Warships. And I just ruined a carrier's day.
So this clip here is from Gamers Nexus. I was talking to Sod earlier how NVIDIA basically they have discontinued 32-bit physics, which is going to prevent being able to play a lot of older games unless you have an older NVIDIA card saved that you didn't get rid of to run it as just the PhysX card and pipe it through your new card. Kind of a crappy thing for them to do, but NVIDIA's been on a self-destructive path recently, so, or at least as far as their gaming GPU section.
You say that, but you're talking about 15-year-old technology that hasn't even been updated in 12 years. Come on.
But the whole point of PCs is
you can't play old games on your 386, 486, 586, 686, Pentium 2, 3, 4, So you're talking about Arkham. I mean, how many physics games are really out there that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to ever be able to play them again?
Well,
Doom,
I'm currently trying to go through the whole Arkham series because I've never played it. And then there's the Tomb Raider series, the older series. They just revamped them, remastered them. There's a lot of the Resident Evils. I mean,
well, see, that's what I don't like about the way they do the technology like that. It's almost like they kind of push you, so it keeps you like it kind of
proprietary technology, right?
Yeah, they want you to. Yeah, they keep you moving along. Which is like,
the problem was physics was a new way to do 3D math. So that when you ran into a room and kicked a box, it pushed over and fell over. The whole physical part of 3D animation in a game. And it hasn't been used in a long time now because it's all built into the software that most of this, Unreal 5 engine does most all that.
Well, it's 64-bit now. And the CUDA cores use that version instead of...
Go look and see when the last time you updated your physics driver. Because every time you update your driver, you're going to notice one driver that is still a 9.5.1.
Right, until the 5000 series.
I think it's funny that people have been posting stuff about like the quality of like CGI and stuff is almost like going backwards.
Yeah, well, they're getting lazier. Well, they have AI to do stuff now, and they rely too heavily on it making fake frames.
It's going to be a weird blender for the next few years, so.
Right, but a lot of the reason why people gravitate towards building gaming PCs is let's say, remember when the whole big thing was, can it run Crysis? Well, a lot of people back then when they wanted to play Crysis, would run it at like bare minimum settings because nobody had hardware or could afford hardware that would run that game decent. And then, the one thing that we'd like to do with building machines is like, oh man, I got this new awesome, super powerful graphics card. I'm going to go back and play Crysis at max settings and see what that's like. Now you're not going to be able to do that. All the old games that run physics are dead.
I guess the problem I've got with that whole theory, what you're saying right there, is, a 10 series will play those old games at 300 frames a second. So
right, but a lot of people traded their cards in recently to get newer cards.
Well, I can tell you personally, I wouldn't miss it at all because I don't have anything on my computer or play anything on my computer in a long time that has physics. Now I know you said you picked up back, Arkham, and hey, that's cool. If you wanted to go back to, how old is that game?
Was it 2008? 2000? Let me see.
So 15 years ago? No, more than that.
Hold on.
17 years ago.
That's a long time.
The only thing that I'm surprised on is, and I get it, it's just like saying, well, the CPUs are so fast now, you can just do software floating point when a floating point processor did it extremely fast. But if it's not been used, not planning on being used, and moving forward, everything's going to a different platform, then I don't, like you said, I mean, how hard would it be to just put a 10, 20, 30, 40 in there in a second slot and hook a monitor to it and just say, hey, when I play this game, use that video card monitor.
Right. There's a spot in the NVIDIA driver to tell it what GPU to use for PhysX.
Oh, yeah, true. Or CPU.
Or CPU. But from what I'm seeing, because, like, here, I'll just use this video.
Actually, Alex, we're going to continue moaning. Because,
oh, no.
We're going to continue moaning about NVIDIA as well, because it looks as though there's issues with 50 series and that there's been deprecation of support for 32-bit CUDA, which does have an impact on a small, but I'd still say significant amount of games. And you did some A to B comparisons of what this means, and I'd say it's astonishing.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like internally moaning about this so much right now. I'm just like, I can barely contain it. Okay, so let me just say, like, I foundationally find this a big problem. So what is happening is that 32-bit CUDA is being deprecated for RTX 5000 series, and then presumably for the future thereafter. And the reasons for that are probably various. Probably has to do with Windows stuff. Probably has to do with internal things at NVIDIA as well too.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But
everybody forgetting that Apple also changed everything to 64-bit.
Physics was based on.
Well,
CUDA.
it's been on.
Came out with the GPUs that could first start running CUDA.
Since we started having more than 4 gigs of RAM, it's been 64-bit.
That means that all of the games that were built during that time period when 32-bit CUDA was in existence, the 32-bit version of PhysX, now are no longer hardware accelerated on these GPUs, these RTX 5000 series GPUs, while they are still technically hardware accelerated on RTX 4000 and lower. And yeah, you can find that information out there. There's a good thread on Reset Era that goes over the listing of games. And now the reason why I find this a big problem on like a theoretical level or just like an ideational one is that PC is the platform for backwards compatibility.
Yeah, we're not consoles.
It's losing support for just an arbitrary reason.
Well, that was one of the big pluses about when they did that with PlayStation was the backwards compatibility.
At the end of the day, I think it's a massive shame and a disservice to the platform and a disservice to the customers who buy new GPUs. Because one of the biggest joys of ever getting a new GPU or a new set of hardware is loading up your favorite old games and seeing them fly at like ridiculous resolutions and ridiculous frame rates. That is one of the joys of getting a new GPU. And NVIDIA
one of the joys for me is getting a new video card and a new game with all the bells and whistles and turning them on.
Taking a dump over the legacy of what
I guess back in 2006 when I went from a 9800 X2 to a 256, not 256, so it was a 285. And I said, well, one of my GPUs went out, so, what are you going to replace it with? And they said, well, we can't send you a 295 because the 295 was a dual GPU, like the 9800 GX2. And he said, well, but I can send you a 285. And I was like, well, dude, that's a single core. And he goes, trust me, it's a lot faster. So when it came in, I plugged that in and went from 80, 90 frames a second in EVE Online to 397 frames a second. And I had to turn VSync on because you'd burn up your video card. So we were only playing at 60 frames a second.
Right.
Only now does it even kind of matter because we've got these high-speed monitors that can keep up with the refresh rate. And if you can do it, great. But you know what? The faster you refresh, the better your CPU better be.
Right. It all correlates now. But at least personally, like from going from when I built that Dell Optiplex small form factor with a GTX 1050 low profile in it, 1050 Ti, and playing at 1080 and playing all my games. Well, even before that, we'll just go back to like back in when Counter-Strike Source first came out, or even Half-Life first came out. I was using
So uses physics.
Mm-hmm. A lot of games have some component of it, especially for particles. So like back in the Half-Life time, 3DFX Voodoo cards, and then I when GeForce started coming out with their titanium, I had like a 4000 series titanium. Just seeing, like, oh man, Half-Life was basically one step above software mode when I was playing on my 3DFX, and now I got this GeForce card, and I'm running Counter-Strike Source now, and everything. It's like the frame rate, I've got like 200 frames per second, and then just every iteration of card come out, you want to see what the max settings that you couldn't get on the previous card, just to see, okay, wow, this is what people with high end hardware were seeing when I wasn't able to see it. And then it just it was kind of a thing where like, especially
the only one that I can compare anything like that to would be, other than that 285, was, when did the new Doom come out? Wasn't it 2016?
Yeah.
So I had the 1060 and it was doing I had it on like medium high. And when I got the 2070 Super, I jumped in it and everything was on Ultra Nightmare mode, and it was just ridiculous. I could jump all around, do flips in the air, versus before,
and it felt
like
so
chugging along. But like I said, now playing Call of Duty, I'm more interested in doing 200 frames a second in that than I am a 2016 Doom. Not to mention, Doom still gives me. So the problem I've always had with first-person shooters is that I get motion sickness.
Mm.
But for some reason, there's a few games that just doesn't even remotely. But like Doom, I run like 20 steps in Doom, I start sweating.
Yeah, Doom sometimes does that to me, the newer ones anyway. And I cannot play BioShock Infinite. I got it free with one of my AMD cards, ATI cards, back in 2013. And I can't play to more than 10 minutes of that game. If I push it to 10 minutes, I'm sick the rest of the night. Like literally wanting to throw up all night. So that's a game I will never be able to finish. And it's a shame because I heard it's a good game. But I've tried messing with the FOV, the view bob settings. Like, it doesn't matter. No matter what I change, I play it and I just start getting, like you said, start sweating, start feeling nauseous. Like, your head starts hurting. It's like, ugh. I don't know. If you didn't save an old card, like, luckily I didn't get rid of my 3080. I'm probably never going to get rid of it. I have a 1660 Super in the server. I used to run my stream to it, and that did through the processing, but now I'm using my 4080 Super internal streaming hardware to do it now. I'm kind of glad I didn't just jump and grab a 5000 series, because I'd probably be pissed if I even would have got one, because it was like basically a paper launch. So if I ever find a 4090 though somewhere, even used, I'm definitely going to snag it up, or try to anyway. So I just thought that was interesting of NVIDIA going that way, and it's kind of weird. Like their actions and their choices, right? I mean, I understand they are all in on AI because that makes them the most money right now. But with TSMC coming to the United States and starting a plant here, chips are going to be like super accessible. I don't know who's going to take up the mantle to try to dethrone NVIDIA as the ultra card maker. It doesn't seem like AMD wants to even touch that piece of the pie, and Intel is still learning to walk. I mean, they've done a good job so far, just coming out of the gate. Like this new set of cards that they've made are decent low to mid range cards, but they ain't nowhere near AMD or NVIDIA as far as gaming cards. So it'll be interesting to see what'll happen when chips are no longer the restricting factor. So, let's see, I don't want to talk about that yet. Let's talk about this. People blowing up Tesla cars.
It's hard to say whether this is because of an NGO, right? I mean, like, I have no idea. But we'll look at this and see what it says. Okay, here we go.
Tesla Cybertruck is on fire. All right. There's a fleet of Cybertrucks.
I mean, it's awfully coincidental that NGO funding has been destroyed, and then all of a sudden you have attacks on the guy directly involved in it.
Right, you've got dozens of firefighters now.
Well, what goes on now that they know Ukraine did that? I mean, what's the retaliation here? Like, because like, I don't think that should be allowed to just.
It's hard to say if it was Ukraine or somebody trying to keep the tensions going.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Elon said, and I don't know how they know exactly that's what it was, but...
Well, the IP address originated, or the IP address origination was there, but that doesn't necessarily mean
it was one of them.
It was Ukraine, right?
But I don't know. It was probably China.
Could have been anybody that wants to keep the war going. I mean, it's billions of dollars that can be laundered.
You're just ruining a person's life. I mean, in fact,
yeah, these types of actions, it's definitely not against Elon. I mean, it's making him look bad, but it is directly affecting workers, people that bought the car. Like
think about what it would be like for you if somebody destroyed your car.
Right.
Yeah, it's not really doing the goal that they think. But well, I mean, that's how simple-minded they are. They don't.
Is it the goal, or is it to hurt people that are supporting them?
You're right. The cascade effects. You have now it's harder for you to do things socially with your friends, and that's the least of your concerns. Now it's harder for you to go to your job.
Yep, you can't get to work. You can't if you're younger. Not to mention, if you just bought a Cybertruck, that's a $80,000 to $100,000 car, depending on the model and or the features that you get with it.
Causes like a domino effect in a person's life, and it can effectively ruin a person's life by burning down their car. And I think that
I like how Trump came out and said you're attacking an American business that working with Americans working making products. To me, you're a
functions that these objects have.
Homeland terrorist.
For example,
yep.
Getting somebody to and from work.
this isn't protesting. This is terrorism.
Necessary.
Domestic terrorism.
Life, right? To being able to exist in a society, right? And so you have people burning down these cars. This is ruining somebody's life. So it's not like, oh, well, it's just a car. Who cares?
It's like burning their house down.
The car is a representation of a person's work, and so is any property, right? So, like, for example, if like you work for 3 months, and like that's the equivalent of the amount of money that you would spend on a car. Somebody burns down your car, destroys your car. They effectively took 3 months of your life and deleted it. And so
we were talking about AI, and then we were talking about NVIDIA crazy decision to. I understand the decision. It's just crazy because a lot of people assume they'll always be able to play their older games without having to worry like, oh, I gotta hold on to this card because if I get rid of this graphics card, I may not be able to play my older games that I want to play on my computer because the newer graphics card doesn't support 32-bit physics. And now we've moved on to the jackasses that are burning people's property and thinking that's hurting Elon. Fortunately, this next video, we get to see them. We get to see natural selection enter the chat. Oops. Did you catch yourself on fire?
Oh, I seen that. That was funny. I don't know how he didn't get caught yet. I figured they would have found him down the street a little bit.
Yeah, right? Watch this guy.
I notice a whole bunch of terrorists, bunch of goofball lefties, just dumb people in general, setting themselves on fire. I'm gonna allow it, Abe. You know why? Because it's just more winning as far as I'm concerned.
Please, it's too much winning. I can't take it anymore.
So
watch this guy.
Ongoing fire while he was doing that. Hope it burns.
Wow. These people are.
The Posting Courier.
No, I mean, their intelligence is already on display because they're trying to do this shit. It's just funny watching them catch karma because they're doing this shit. So we'll see how long this lasts, especially because Trump. I don't know if you saw Trump had Tesla out at the White House, and he had a bunch of them Tesla cars to choose from to help Elon out, and not that he needs help, but he ended up buying a couple of them, not for himself, but for, I guess, kind of technically charity.
Well, it's funny they were mad about that too, but Biden had signed the contract too from his term before, which kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I wonder if they planned on doing something horrible to them to make it.
No, the deal was that for the last, since Biden's been in, but even before then, Elon's pissed off at Biden because, yeah, he brought the electric car to the market, right? And everybody loved Elon until he started hanging out with Trump. Well, in 21, right after he got voted in, went through the inauguration, a few months later in that spring of 21, they held went out to California and held a big electric car summit. And Elon didn't get invited. They brought GM, Ford, Chrysler, Nissan, Honda, Toyota. And he got up there and praised GM on how wonderful they are and how great their cars are. And it was like, what are you talking about? I mean, they got one or two that they offer, but, we're the electric cars. So he hadn't been happy with Biden and them anyway. So to kind of hush him up, that's where he got that $400 million contract. But the other side of it is the part they've been leaving out of the commercials about how wonderful electric cars are is the fact that the United States government's been giving them billions of dollars for the last several years to subsidize Ford to build, Chevy to build, Nissan to build. That's why remember December 23, there was what was it? The 6,000 dealers signed to, hey, quit making us sell these things, and in with the manufacturer saying, quit making us build these things. Nobody's buying them.
Right.
That's why they were showing runways all over the country with thousands of, electric cars sitting there waiting.
Right.
And the waste, they're so toxic, like.
Yeah. They actually burn more fossil fuels to make and then dispose of, and to power. And the funny thing is, they're destroying. So they told us for 4 years during Biden, oh, got to buy an EV to save the planet. If you don't buy an EV to save the planet, you're hurting the planet. And now they're setting them on fire and causing pollution and hurting the planet. And then they got a grant for so many billions. I think it was 19 billion to build charging stations, and now they're setting them all on fire.
Yeah, and the leftover stuff is so toxic they got to dispose of them in very certain ways.
And as a response, a Delaware Democrat activist judge denied. So, okay, in Delaware, the board of Tesla and the shareholders unanimously agreed to pay Elon a sum of money, $55 billion, because he helped make Tesla successful. One shareholder with 10% share or something had a bug up his ass about Elon exposing the fraud and stuff in the government, and took him to court. And the judge was a leftist activist judge and denied Elon getting paid. Elon then did a second vote to the shareholders and the board, who both again overwhelmingly said yes, give him his money. The judge denied him again. So, because the judge was effing around, now Delaware's finding out. TripAdvisor, AMD, a bunch of other companies are now pulling out, including Walmart is mulling the idea over. They're pulling out of Delaware and relocating to other states. And so is Tesla.
No.
Why are Delaware
at least all those judges should be gone soon.
Well, I don't know if you guys heard. I don't know if you guys know who the MyPillow guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he. Since he's here in Minnesota, his advertisements were all over the place, and then all of a sudden they just stopped. So it's like, me and a coworker were actually talking about it the other day. And it's like, what the hell happened? So it's like, when I got home, I Googled. He apparently found information, or claims to have found information, that there was Chinese interference in the 2020 election. Some other investigator supposedly claims to have found evidence that proves he's full of shit. And a judge has ordered the MyPillow guy to pay this other guy $55 million. And I'm like, how much sense does that make? If I go to a flat earther society and prove to them that the world is not flat, they don't have to pay me money for that.
Right. Or if they counter sue you and say, no, it's flat, that you have to pay them.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that happened to Tucker on Fox. Fox, he stated a fact: the Dominion voting machines were compromised, and Dominion sued Fox because Tucker stated a fact, and then Fox and Tucker had it out, and then Tucker left Fox. It's like, just because they have the power to sue now, they can override the fact that they're in the wrong.
All that should be corrected soon.
We're seeing it. We're seeing it right now. The left has been exposed, defunded, broken. They don't have a leader. They're in disarray. They don't have any stance. They don't have what are they gonna? They literally can't campaign on anything right now.
No.
If they came out campaigning? What if they're going to be in opposition to Trump? Their campaign would look something like this: elect me, and I'll start taxing again. Elect me, and we'll start laundering your tax money again. Elect me, and we'll start wars. and fund them with your tax money. Elect me and we'll mutilate children. Elect me and we'll murder children. Like, what are you going to stand on?
That's it. See, I think too that eventually they're going to try to, like they did the Democratic Party, they're going to try to take over another party and claim it for themselves and try to start. But
we're on to them. Like,
bad. Yeah.
They don't have. They used to have Twitter where they could manipulate the information going in and out. They used to have their control of the alphabet agencies, and that's been systematically reduced and almost eliminated now. So
something I just seen recently, and I never seen it before. Did you see how people are putting the cover of Obama? He was on the cover of Newsweek magazine, and they are claiming he was the first gay president.
What?
That was back in 2017. Yeah, he was really on the cover of Newsweek magazine, and you could look at. I went and searched it, and they even have the news thing about it. I don't ever remember seeing it. I'd never seen anything like that the entire time.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But it says right on the front of it that he was the first gay president.
See, that's the other thing we got to watch out for is people generating stuff in AI now. Because it's hard to tell.
Well, they're trying to claim that it was they said it that way because he was the first president to fight for gay rights and this and that, but that's not how it was stated on there.
Right, like the slip that Biden said, we've assembled the most, what do you say, the biggest voter fraud.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say the quiet part out loud. I'm kind of moving through these quickly, but so this next one is about that student protester here on a green card that the left is trying to protect. The anti-Semitic riot starter. And they're saying, "Oh, free speech," but like, okay, so if I'm a guest in your house and I start smashing your shit, are you going to allow me to stay in your house?
No.
Exactly. As a green card holder, you are a guest here. If you are in good behavior, eventually, if you want to become permanently staying here, we look at your behavior up until that point and just make a decision. Were they a good person? Were they honoring our country? Or were they protesting and directly declaring death to Western civilization? If you're the latter, then you shouldn't be allowed to be a permanent citizen here. You should be kicked out. That's just common sense. That's just intelligent. Why would we want to keep a terrorist in our midst?
Well, I'm kind of curious to see how now with the Department of Education being done and the funding being done, like what kind of teachers are actually going to be in schools, and if we are going to have a massive shortage of teachers, or if we're going to actually get real teachers back in the schools.
I think we're going to get real teachers back.
I hope so. I think that's what chased a lot of them away was the policies and them.
Well, look at Common Core Math that started with Michelle Obama and that whole whoever.
Yep.
So the thing that really gets me is
same
I'm
with
so
the
tired
food.
of everybody saying that Biden was just Obama's puppet, because Obama was somebody's puppet.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously worked with the Islamic Brotherhood, and he took commands from China, and he worked basically like with the whole underground evil side of the world. I mean, like that Fast and Furious program, like nobody, like he got away with delivering guns directly to the cartels and in massive amounts, military grades, and never had to answer for it.
Mm-hmm. Just like Biden armed ISIS.
The entire country, yeah.
Just like Biden armed Ukraine.
Yep.
If we just sat back, Russia could have gone in there and kicked it. Well, Russia would have never gone in there to begin with.
No.
Because this has all been since 2014, 11 years of bullshit.
Right. The contention was just, I don't want NATO on my back doorstep. So that's what they were like focused
Clinton
on.
was supposed to win in 16 because then she would just continue on with that money they've been doing for 2 years and from 14 forward by putting Zelensky in power, being a nation builder. And if Clinton had gotten in there, oh man, God knows we'd probably be in World War III right now.
Oh yeah. There would have been nukes flying.
It would have been over.
But that's why they got so pissed off at Trump, because he basically derailed their entire plan. They weren't expecting him to win. Just like this time, they weren't expecting Trump to survive in July.
Oh, all the times? Yeah. Oh, yeah, because right after, remember with BlackRock? Like, nobody can tell me that wasn't the whole plan and it was set up that way. If they would have actually took him out that day and then BlackRock hit the whole world with that supposed glitch, like where emergency calls, everything was down, that was all orchestrated together. 100%.
Yeah, they had plans. They knew.
It would have threw the whole country into chaos. Not being able to call 911, no one responding, the whole country would have went nuts.
Right. We literally dodged a bullet, like as the world itself dodged a bullet that day, not just Trump.
Yeah. And they had it already in the process, and that's why it still went through.
Yeah, because right now they were expecting, okay, we'll just keep doing the war thing. Kamala's going to do this in the economy, and we're going to launder all this money. They wouldn't have been exposed. USAID would have been ramping up. Oh, we gotta fund all these programs in the world. Sorry, we're gonna have to raise your taxes to help with the inflation.
And people got so used to just living in the gutter.
Yeah, people would have just accepted it.
Well, it's just like right now, look at the price of food 10 years ago and 15 years ago, and look at the price of food since 06 when, when in 05 when minimum wage was $3.35 an hour, and Nancy Pelosi was like, I just don't see how anybody that can live on $3.35 an hour. Well, you weren't supposed to live on $3.35 an hour. That was just a minimum as an employer can pay somebody.
Right.
That rule has nothing to do with the employee. That is an employer rule.
Right.
That means if I want you to sweep the floor, I have the minimum by mandate. I have a minimum per hour I can pay you.
Right. Yep. I can't make you do it for free or pay you $1 an hour to do something that's and that's the thing is like these starter jobs, they're starter jobs. They're to give your high schooler some work experience to get out there and like get accustomed to being in the workforce, learning what it is to get a paycheck, handling money.
About this, it goes a little deeper than that. So a friend of mine back in like 09-10 was like, you know why they did that? And I was like, no. And he said, well, because union is 3 times the minimum wage as a starting pay. So at $3.35, $10 an hour roughly was what people were making starting pay in union jobs. But then when they made it $7.50, all of a sudden people were making $24 an hour minimum starting pay in the unions. And right now the unions are all like, bring the business back and we need unions. And that's what the Democrats are pushing right now. Union. And it's like the whole reason they left is because of unions.
Right. Because you're artificially forcing them to into pay rates for positions. That's like at GE here, they were paying people like $25, almost $30 an hour to push a broom around.
And that's what they want. They want to be able to. A lot of people
want
to go to McDonald's.
They also make 23% of your paycheck as union dues.
Yeah.
Right.
They want to push a broom around at McDonald's and turn that into a career like that.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Right. You're supposed to. It's supposed to leave you wanting. So you're like, okay, I'm going to try to work up, make manager, or oh, I got some work experience and this is the job I really wanted, but they said you got to have like so much experience. So then, laterally move and then move up, or, work there while you're trying to learn a skill. Like, it's not like, oh, this is my career.
This is where I'm staying. I like this.
I'm going to work a register for the rest of my life.
25 years and I'm ready for my retirement.
Yep.
Right. But that's back to the GE thing. That's why it's no longer GE here. It's Wabtec, because they went and bought it out because the union screwed everything up. GE could no longer be here. I mean, they're still making the parts and stuff, whatever they were manufacturing for the trains, but it's no longer GE. It's Wabtec. And it's like what happened in California. They were artificially forcing that $20 an hour minimum wage, and the businesses were like, we can't do this.
Can't survive. Yep.
Like they have no clue how the economy
Last year,
works.
several months before, it got announced that what was it going to be, $15 an hour or $20 an hour minimum wage in California, and Domino's put it right in the paper. Well, we're 1,200 stores. We're no longer delivery. You can get it on Instacart, Uber, but we're not going to be able to afford to have somebody running pizzas around for $20 an hour.
Right. It's craziness. Insanity.
Void. This wasn't.
I mean, it should have told you something when Walgreens left, CVS left, all the major grocery stores left, Walmart left. I mean, what do they got left to buy out there? Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a video earlier today. This business owner, I don't know if she was a salon or something, but it was fairly female dominated because she had her employees on the video. She was doing a video and she was asking them a question. She's like, how much do you think in the last 3 years I've paid in taxes for HR just to be able to give you a paycheck? Take a rough guess. And some of them were like, oh, 60,000. One of them said 1,000. $275,000 just to be able to pay them money that was going to get taxed. Because you get taxed on your paycheck, then you get taxed on the shit that you buy. And she has to pay over almost $100,000 a year just to be able to hand them a paycheck. Pay that in taxes to the government to be allowed to pay them. That's insanity. Imagine if she didn't have to.
Well, it was like my son years ago. He had a friend working for a competitor of mine. And that competitor's sort of a friend. I mean, he's not my enemy. He worked for me at one time and we were friends then. He left and started his own company. But then years later, one of his employees started wanting a bunch of money. And, he was, I kept telling my son, because he was like, I just don't see why you don't pay him. And I said, do you realize how much more the store has to make an hour a day to give him that much of a rate increase?
Right.
So what you got, well, it's just that much more money. I'm like, well, yeah, but you have to do this much more work, which means to do that much more work, you have to buy this
money
much
to do
more
work.
Product. You have to buy this much more product. So like say you're working on cars, you're putting on tires. Well, if you want to make that much more money, we got to have this much more. And in order to have that much more, that means we got to sell 5 more sets of tires a day, so that the profit from the 5 tires gives you your race. And that doesn't do anything for the business. That just helps the race.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And they got the mentality, the kids nowadays too, they got the mentality like
it comes from nowhere.
They shouldn't have to do anything. Yeah. They should be able to. Some other guy over there is getting paid. Well, just for showing up, you should get paid the same.
The one that killed me, I think, was like when they burned down Minneapolis for 3 miles. 3 miles. So let's look at this on one hand. If you owned any property there, would you rebuild, or would you just go ahead and take that big fat check from the insurance you got and probably move somewhere else, right? Or invest somewhere else, or just
where it was less headache.
Start drawing interest, right? Why rebuild? Why? So most of the people that were there most likely didn't even have insurance. Like when they burned the buildings down, I had no insurance on my building for 25 years. And even now, it's only on the building if a storm comes through. If somebody breaks in or, shit burns down, oh, well, I can't afford that much more insurance if something happens.
All right.
Yeah, that's horrible. That is horrible.
And it's a business, so it's already 3 times more than a person,
Oh, yeah.
Business, well, this is and then it's never, you just need this kind. So, like, we work on cars, so there's garage insurance. I have to pay extra every year for that, just for pulling cars in and out. And we're not allowed to have, because the insurance, nobody comes in there but you guys.
Right.
So that's why when you go to a garage and they're like, hey, whoa, don't come into the bay. That's because
if you get hurt, right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just close your whole place up real quick.
That would be it. That would,
One small thing.
Yeah. Curtains.
Can't even let you pull it in or pull it out. Some people are like, no, man, I like to drive my car. No. If you want me to work on it, I'll have it pull it in and pull it out.
And then on top of that, people are looking to sue.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's looking to sue nowadays. over anything.
You know, the biggest question a few years back was, why does everybody sue happy in America? And it's because overseas, if you lose, you can get sued right back.
Right. But here, man.
Right then and there, you lose. If you lose, they go, okay, this is how much it costs because you lost. If you win, then you win.
Yeah.
But it gives you a consequence. That's the problem.
Right. So if you say this company, this guy worked at this company and he raped me and all this, and you really can't prove it, and then they can go, oh, look, this really didn't happen. Guess what? You defamed the company, so that's costing a lot of fucking money.
Right.
You had we had to, they were on staff, but this is how much a lawyer team costs to do all the hours and hours and hours, and every person working on it's an hour.
Right. And then the damage to your public name is going to cost you.
Time in court, defamation, just everything. So that's why they say, like in Europe, yes, you have suits, but they're real suits because it's for real. Over here, that's why they call them the Beltway, is the big interstate beltway around and then all the office complexes all around that beltway with all the lawyers that have access to the laws going on right now as they make them in Congress, and then you can report back to their office and they can write rules and start calling out to people. Have you been screwed by this situation? Well, call us.
Mm-hmm. But like I was saying, imagine if she didn't have to pay, that's like 2 people's salary in taxes just to be able to pay her employees. So like, imagine if she didn't have to pay that, like she could either increase their pay or, make the business a little bit better, put it back into the business, and then she can afford to hire, it's just so much more, it's just so much better for the business if she didn't have to, like, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's just funny how the Democrats and the leftists got all the leftist followers saying eat the rich. Like, they don't realize, like, you'd be destroying, well, at least the ones that work.
What they don't realize it's the rich that are telling them to do that. That's the part
the rich are telling them to do that, and then they don't realize that the rich are the ones that are giving out the jobs, that own the companies, that are support, that are
nobody ever got a paycheck from somebody on welfare.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
That's true.
Driving around Escalades on food stamps, living in government housing. So, I don't know. You got a couple
discount on internet, high-speed internet, discount on electricity. Got a brand new car because you got to make sure you can get the kids to school, get to your job. Don't worry about us, the working people. Just these people that they're in a situation and they need all this stuff. Don't worry about me.
Well,
I don't need all that stuff.
That's been proven. That's what the train of thought was. Oh, you guys are better off. You can help the world. So we're going to make you artificially impoverished and help bring up people who should be trying to fix their country instead of relying on you to give them handouts. It's like that in Africa when they stopped the funding over there, all of a sudden, oh, we have the 20 billion necessary to do these things. America was giving us that money, so we just didn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, when it's freely handed out, nobody.
Yeah, who's going to complain?
Deny it. Yeah.
Well, the biggest problem is nobody has any problem spending somebody else's money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially when you work for the government and you're just talking numbers, and then probably when you first went to work there and you heard somebody say, "Yeah, this part costs $50,000," you're like, "Jesus Christ!" But then after a few years, you've worked on multi-million-dollar projects, and what's another $50 million?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing people don't realize is like if all of this extra waste, abuse, fraud, money laundering wasn't happening, we wouldn't be
like
struggling as much as we are.
No, it'd be like back in freaking 95 or 98 when you'd put $5 in your tank and ride around all day. Like we used to throw a couple bucks in, we'd be good
for
all
a gallon,
day.
$1.15. Yeah.
That's coming soon. We're on the right track.
It's gonna be a little bit of a rough patch to get there because the system.
The craziest part is 85% of the price of gas is tax.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from this ship bringing it over here, that gets taxed. You get in the trucks, that gets taxed.
Well, no, federal government tax.
Yeah, right off the top.
Yeah.
You know, the distributor gets a slight cut, but it's sheer volume, and then the store gets a little bit of a cut.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking cents a gallon, but they sell tens of thousands of gallons, so it adds up.
Oh yeah,
but,
adds up a lot.
But you're paying $3 a gallon, so the store got 7. the distributor got 3. But the difference with the distributor, he's got hundreds of gas stations hooked to him. You know, you're the store getting 7.
Right.
By the time it gets to your car too, there's a lot of watering down and added chemicals and everything else that.
Well, there's one refinery in the United States. It's over in Corpus Christi in a little suburb that apparently I just found out a year ago. Apparently 15 years ago, the Chinese slowly moved in, buying up vacant lots and old ready houses, and then the houses themselves, and then commercial vacant lots and commercial property until they basically owned the whole city. And then they bought the refinery in that city.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people go, hey, you know, we refine our own gas, yeah, but it's a Chinese refinery.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to a lady last year. She was a trucker. And I just kind of belted it out, kind of like I just did now. And I thought she was texting somebody while she was listening. And no, she was Googling it. And she was like, you're right. They just spent $1.7 billion this year. And I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, people don't realize the shenanigans that are going on. Like, it's not just gas stations. It's farmland. And then they're buying up
No, whoa. Hold on. This is how out of touch the younger generation is with what happened. This is what I don't like about when us older people say this happened. And of course we probably did it too, because we didn't see it and we didn't understand it, and they were trying to tell us, but they saw it and they couldn't really explain it. Just like when we try to tell our next generation, this is what happened, this is what, you know, and they're like, why don't you like this guy? And it's like, isn't it obvious? He's, you know, but no, it's not, because they've only been being fed a certain amount of information. So like the other day I'm watching this video and they're talking about different types of gases and different types of foods. And he honestly thought that they just started growing a lot of corn because they could make a lot of money. He didn't realize, no, that was government subsidized to turn corn into money, which was called gas. Remember ethanol? And make, you know, and then all of a sudden all gas was required to have at least 10% of ethanol in it. So yeah, all of a sudden overnight, when that shit got signed into law, corn shot through the freaking roof and they started putting corn everywhere. But now you're watching this video and he doesn't even know that side of the story. The way he's talking, you know, there's just plentiful corn and they're making, you know, lots of money with it, you know.
No, it was forced to be that way. That's why corn syrups and everything. That's why, like you said, ethanol and yeah, it was a way to make
things.
It was right. It was a way to make money.
The insider trading too. That's how they get all that insider trading.
Sustainable fuel by being regrowable corn.
Right.
And just a lot of that stuff too, that type of corn can't be fed to livestock and stuff. It's specifically done for the fuel and certain things. Like you can't even, like, people can't eat some of that. Like,
yeah, I saw something about farmers complaining because like when they're doing that, like that's it. Like they can't grow edible food.
It's not for it's specifically for that crap.
Right. It's garbage.
It's nuts.
So, and I forget what I was going to say, but
partly to do too from the teachers. So like, yeah, like a big part of our thing, like when Obama got in too, him and Michelle changing the whole thing with the schools, the food. Michelle even changed the way the kids got food, and their lunches were horrible. I remember the kids going to school and they made lunches just horrible and everything else. And then
the problem was the amount of gluten. My brother-in-law became a kitchen manager for one of the schools, and he's been doing it probably 15 years now. And he was telling me about it years ago, back in like 15, 16 or so. It was all about the gluten. One of their best meals at the high school was barbecue day. And the barbecue day, you got, you know, a barbecue sandwich, macaroni and cheese, and I think something else. But now, because of the amount of gluten in the bread and in the macaroni and cheese, you can only have a 1 ounce bun. Which, think about a 1 ounce bun. That's a donut hole.
Right.
And so when they're not, the kids ain't eating right. Their brains ain't functioning right.
Right.
And then the crazier thing is, so this is the crazier thing. So I'm like, well, what do they eat? Oh, they can go to the fruit bar all they want and get all the fruit they want. And I'm like, but fruit's super high in natural sugars and stuff. What? You know, and I'm like, well, how are they doing that? Like, I don't remember being in high school thinking, man, I'd like go get me some grapes or some shit. You know, I was like, give me that mac and cheese over there and stuff. You know, give me that greasy burger you got back there. But not what? And then they got all these nice lines like you're in Burger King stuff now. No, we were just walk up, grab your tray, call it up. They slapped it on there. You know, you got what you got. But I was like, why would? And he's like, oh, they brainwash them. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes all the way from preschool up. English teachers, when they're talking about stories and stuff, have to kind of push the narrative of fruits are good for you. Science, while they're telling you about proteins and everything, oh yeah, fruits are good for you. Math, it's always apples and oranges and stuff, which are good for you. 2 of those and 2 of those are 4, you know. Subliminal all the way up, so that by the time they're in high school, they can eat all the fruits and stuff they want, but the normal pay-for meal, you got super limited on what they can put in there.
The things your brain will actually function and your body will
like
actually grow
protein.
on. Yeah. And I think they first place they started using that pink slime was in school lunches. Which
yeah.
And now Bill Gates he's pushing the synthetic meats and stuff too, and I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why
a lot of places have banned it. West Virginia just put out a bill to ban artificial dyes in the state. So like a whole list of those dyes that are like the red number 5 and all that they're banned.
I heard that Bill Gates was like actually buying out a lot of the farm area.
Yep.
Or has.
Yeah.
Is that
him in China? They own like all of it.
Actually, you know who the largest owner of land is in the world? King Charles, 384.7 million square. It's not called acres.
Wow.
I seen he inherited some crazy fortune.
I think it's called hectares, not acres, but hectares.
Oh yeah, hectares. I just seen the other day he inherited some kind of ridiculous fortune that was like some hundreds of billions of dollars or something like that, out of nowhere. I don't know what the story is about. I just seen a quick thing on it. People are mad about it. I guess Charles inherited a whole bunch of money from somewhere that people were mad about it for some reason. I'm gonna have to go back and see what it was about.
No.
So I guess we can skip over the college kid being deported. I mean, I'm in full agreement. I don't know what you guys think of it, but I'm in full agreement of him being deported because,
I think
like
all
I said,
of them people should be shipped out.
Right? like they're like, oh, free speech, but like if I invite someone into my house and they start berating me and busting up my stuff and just being belligerent and you know, I'm not going to let them stay in my house.
How about they go back to their original country and scream free speech?
Right.
See where that gets them and how well that works.
Green card is not permanent residence. You're here as a guest and being evaluated to see, you know, if you could be a permanent resident.
Yeah, I think the rights should not apply to them.
It's like temporarily granted, yes, but if you start abusing those rights, like yeah, you have free speech, but you're not given free speech to like cause harm.
No, yeah.
To the populace, and that's what they're doing. Like
I saw on a green card, you shouldn't be allowed to protest and stuff like that either, because that's not.
Yeah, you're not part. Yeah, you're not part of our
society.
Society yet. Yeah, you're a guest. You're like here to observe and then like prove that you can be you can join our society as a good person. Oh, this story here. So yeah, the governor of Maine trying to take on Trump, like it's like, okay, she doesn't want to comply with his executive order to keep biological men out of, like, okay,
she's
still a woman. Why is she fighting to have men beat up women? I don't get it. Even if she's a diehard feminist, isn't she supposed to be against the patriarchy? So why are you letting the patriarchy come into your space and beat up women?
She's the one the smart mouth said, "I'll see you in court." Trump was like, "That'll be the fastest case yet."
There's a video out there where I think it was the Baltimore mayor was in front of one of the congresswomen, and she was asking him, didn't you say that you would go to jail if they, for them? And he's like, well,
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's like the teacher's like, we're not letting ICE in here. We will fight them. It's like, why didn't you show that level of resistance against school shooters?
I gotta run. Been fun. See you all tomorrow.
Yep. Take care.
See you later.
So I'll play a little bit of this.
Donald Trump has delivered a FAFO to the governor of Maine. For those who didn't see the video, the governor basically told Trump, bring it on, when Trump said, if you do not abide by our executive order on men and women's sports, we will cut your funding. Well, the governor of Maine said, I'll see you in court. And he says, sure thing, lady. Well, FAFO, as it were. Trump admin slashes funding for Maine universities in standoff over protecting women's sports. The pause is in response to Maine's refusal to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order that keeps biological men out of women's sports. Let's just call it men out of women's sports.
Yes.
The Post-Millennial reports. On Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Agriculture paused funding to the University of Maine system, a network of 8 public colleges in the state. According to UMS officials, the pause is in response to Maine's refusal to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order that keeps biological men out of women's sports. Fox News reported that the USDA is reviewing potential Title IX and Title VI violations by the university for failing to comply with the order.
It's funny that the USDA is involved with that. So it's like this web of, and they were talking about how they had to use, like with the USDA or USAID, fraud and the funding that's been going out and laundered into NGOs. They have to use AI to track and figure out the whole web of who's getting what, where it was distributed, what it was paid into, and then, once it was paid into an NGO, where did it go from there? Whose hands did it touch? It's so intricate, and I mean, I kind of expected it to be that way because of how many years, how many decades that they had built this system to, like, a shell game. Like, when they talk about, like, money laundering, this is the prime example of when you have ultimate unfettered access to build a money laundering scheme, because they are the government who's investigating them. It's not like a private citizen who builds a money laundering scheme and then it, like, runs for a couple years and then gets caught. Like, who's going to catch them? They're the ones in charge of investigating it. So obviously they have full reign to just go, you know what? We have trillions of taxpayer dollars. Let's do this. And then as long as they have themselves surrounded by like-minded people, everyone turns their head because, as long as you play ball, you're included in the group and you'll benefit.
Well, it's the same. See, they felt so comfortable about that too because they're all the same ones that were involved with the human trafficking and child trafficking.
Right. I think that kind of became once they had so much money, because like I forget what I was watching, but like it might have been Tim Pool. He did a calculation on that one that received like $720 billion, and he was like, well, let's see what happens if like we take what that NGO received and put that into a high yield savings account at 4% interest, and it was some crazy like 20 million a month or more in just interest off of that sitting in there. 20 million a month.
Did you bring that story up where the whistleblower, they were telling them all to burn and shred papers so Doge couldn't
that's
find
in
them?
my list here. No,
that there alone, like, man, if there's still people out there who are against it, you need kicked in your head by a freaking donkey or something, because that's just.
I had that up here actually. Where did it go?
Yeah, right there.
Oh yeah, I found it.
Documents. This is from obviously post
my
5-alarm fire. USAID employees told to shred or burn classified documents. This is from obviously post my The U.S. Agency for International Development instructed its Washington staff to shred and burn documents, according to an email obtained by NBC News. The directive comes as the Trump administration faces challenges over its attempt to strip and shut down the agency. An email from Erica Carr, USAID's
I think Erica Carr needs waterboarded.
Destruction is scheduled for Tuesday.
Found.
The message thanked workers for their assistance in clearing our classified safes and personnel documents. Shred as many documents first, and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break. Wait, what? How do they burn these things in D.C.? So they say, while classified materials are sometimes destroyed in emergencies, former employees and a group representing foreign service workers say this directive is not appropriate. Legal groups opposing the administration's effort to shut down USAID filed an emergency motion on Tuesday to halt the destruction. Defendants are, as this motion is being filed, destroying documents with potential pertinence to this litigation.
Jesus.
The motion stated a Trump administration official stated that 3 dozen employees received
Talk about
email and that the
getting rid of evidence.
Courtesy content documents given to USAID by other agencies. So Mike Benz tweets, this is a 5-alarm fire. Right now, as we speak today, USAID is shredding and burning the contents of its agency's classified safes. The key information needed to reconstruct the history of USAID's weaponization.
Oh, man.
But it sounds like the Trump administration wants this to happen.
Yeah, so if you scroll down to the bottom, there's another paragraph right there at the end that they're old documents. They're in compliance with Federal Records Act of 1950. The official.
How do you know?
Everyone involved in the process had a secret clearance or hire was approved by the Bureau that they were handling. Majority of the content is courtesy content. Most original copies are still classified in computers.
I wouldn't trust anything.
I mean, so that's possible for sure.
Yeah, but how about just the actual physicality of you got to go out back and get a big barrel and throw some gas in there? Like, I mean, how
documents like crazy.
Washington D.C. How are you actually physically setting something on fire?
Well, I imagine they're loading them into trucks and the
trucks and hauling them
sites or something.
Look, I mean, if it's USAID that they're talking
anything
about,
should be saved. Yep.
Have the capacity to dispose of incriminating evidence wherever they are, because that's what CIA is capable of doing. That you know that anytime you hear historically,
what organization is this?
United States
USAID.
Yeah.
What
agency? It's what is it? The Agency of International Development.
Oh yeah.
What is
their guise of purpose, or the guise of their purpose, is the
funding.
The acronym USAID is hiding. Public facing is makes the public think, oh, it's USAID because that's what it spells. So they must be going out and doing humanitarian missions. Where in fact,
never in America.
Where in fact, they had a bunch of, we'll call them shell companies, but they call them NGOs, where they name them.
They were laundering money.
They'll say, "Oh, we sent 20 million to make a a woke Sesame Street for Iranians. I think it was Iran. Or
they trained mice to be gay.
trained mice, transgender studies in Syria or whatever, and they'll send a small amount of money to
people are starving on the street.
Right. They'll send a little bit of money to make it kind of legitimate. Like they are getting some funding. Whereas like 80 to 90% of the money just disappears.
It's kickback.
I can't wait for Jesus to come back. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's soon.
And that's what these protesters are protesting in favor of. They're protesting against Elon, trying to stop him from exposing this stuff, like it's beneficial to them. And they're protesting against the USAID getting shut down, which would save them if it did get shut down.
Who paid their own daughter? Who was that? That was
it wasn't. I know Hillary did something similar to that, but
it was the lady who's been speaking out against it, the black lady,
Maxine Waters.
Like, Maxine Waters.
Yeah, she paid her daughter.
Her own daughter. Yep. And the one, whoever paid their own company, a bunch of their own companies' money, which is 100% illegal.
That's what I was talking about earlier, is like when you have unfettered ability to start a money laundering scheme, this is what it turns into.
Yeah.
Because like if a private citizen tried to do this, they might be able to get away with it for 1 or 2 years, but then the federal government investigates them and goes, no, we're the only ones that can do this. No.
Mm-hmm.
You can't compete.
Like all other crimes for anybody else are nothing compared to what they've done.
Yeah, because they're the source of the investigation. So obviously, if they're doing it, they're not investigating themselves. Like that would be counterproductive to their task. So yeah, they started this gigantic money laundering scheme, which happens to be very biased towards one political party.
Trillions of dollars before people even started hearing the word billions of dollars. Like, you remember when like debt was only in the millions? Like,
oh yeah, it ramped up. Like when Trump. The reason why the first term of Trump was so hated against was because they knew he was going to find out about this and then stop it.
And they were scared. Well, see, and then Obama, that's what they were so mad about, because during Obama's 8 years, with the whole unemployment that ran for fucking how long straight?
It was like, almost the second half of his first term into almost the second half of his second term.
Oh yeah, and that was, everybody was collecting it. That they were just literally just throwing money out.
He extended it like two or almost 3 times, I think.
And then I guarantee a lot of that money was people overseas, just like they did with COVID, and they were sending a lot of that money back into their own pockets and stuff. Just like they're finding out with the whole COVID unemployment, they were doing the same thing.
All right, it was all a racket.
Yep, it's funny how it all just kind of repeated too.
No, it's to be expected when you have that much power. You are very corrupt. Power corrupts, and ultimate and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
And if they don't get caught the first time, they'll just run the scam again, and they'll keep running.
Or even if they do get caught, we've seen them. They just throw any old distraction out, and then it goes away, disappears into the night. Oh, look over there! Somebody's firebombing something, and then the story about the corruption disappears.
That's like 9/11 too. What actually was destroyed? You know, with all the papers and the documents that were in those buildings, what actually got destroyed in those buildings?
Right. We'll never know. It'll be unlikely that we'll know.
Some nasty stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like this fire sale they're doing right now. Shredding papers like crazy, trying to keep themselves from going to prison where they belong.
They're so corrupt though. Like they can try to do all that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
especially like when Jesus comes back too, they're all paying anyways.
Right. People default to their true natures, especially under stress.
Look at OJ. He got out, And he still ended up going back until he made sure he ended up getting in trouble for stuff. Like,
right. They can't get away from their base nature.
They've lived so above the law, they think like
I got away with it. I'll get away with it again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was, and like I said, that train of thought, that's the other thing. Like the leftist party seems to not be able to learn new things. Like they're unable to change behavioral patterns that have gotten them to this point. And they can't see it. They have no self-awareness. They're not able to go look at themselves objectively and go, why is my life like this? How did I get here? No, they'll just be like, it's because that person has $1 billion. No. I don't think he even knows you exist or even cares, or that even his acquiring of wealth had nothing to do with the choices that you made in your life. Like, it's two separate things. Because you could have easily, instead of focusing on him, you could have focused on your shit and figured out a way. Right.
Yep.
Because there's so many opportunities. Like, people make money now, and I don't agree with all of the ways they make money, but there are a lot of people that make money off of some stupid shit.
Yeah. Nowadays, it doesn't matter what color or where you're from or anything like that. If you want to do it and you put the time to it, you can do it.
Right.
There's so many things nowadays. You can do it.
I mean, hell, there's this girl who's bragging online, or not bragging, but she was featured on another girl's podcast, video, vlog thing. She is an OnlyFans model and literally makes $4 million a month. Just selling pictures of her nude ass online.
Hey, if it works, it works, I guess. Mm-hmm. Well, look at all the fake ones, the AI models too. They're making more money than.
Yeah, and they even have YouTube videos. Here's how to take an AI and generate an Instagram page and make money.
The saddest part, though, is people know about it and they don't care.
Right.
They don't care.
They're paying for the content. They don't give a shit where it comes from. As long as it looks good and it keeps coming, they'll pay.
Mm-hmm.
There's a market for a lot of weird shit, and like, as you put your mind to it, you can make a ton of money.
Do anything, yeah. It's like we were saying too, like how they used to do. Hey, you give me $1, I'll tell you how to become a millionaire.
Yeah, that was the OG scheme back in Pet Rock. Pet Rock back in the it was like the 60s, I think, late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Send me $1, I'll send you a pet rock. It was just a rock, and you paid $1, and it was $1. You knew you were paying $1, and it wasn't that big of a deal. But you get a couple million people paying $1 for a rock, you made a couple $1 million. So, like, I'm not gonna trash talk the guy. It was a brilliant scheme. I mean, he clearly said, "Here is a pet rock." He didn't declare that it was alive or would do anything. Send me $1, I'll send you a rock. If you agreed to that, I mean, he's not stealing from you. I clearly told you what he was giving you and how much it cost. So
it's just, you just got to find the market. Like, people were selling them tumbleweeds because on the other side of the planet, they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody was going out, boxing them up, shipping them out. $1 million company now.
Mm-hmm. Selling tumbleweed.
That you don't even have to, like, it grows itself. You just got to grab it and put it in a box.
Right. Yeah, the shipping is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, what the hell is their name? She's another influencer / porn star, basically. Belle Daphne, I think that's what her name is. She was selling her own fucking used bath water and made millions.
Yeah. And people actually believe that stuff.
It's disgusting. Anyway. So, yeah. So now we've got criminals burning out in the open, burning and shredding documents that are evidence.
And not worrying about it, yeah.
Right.
They feel like they don't have to worry about it.
It's disgusting. It's all disgusting. This part, this here, I just wanted to bring this up. They were all out in force going, oh, he can't read. It's transgenic mice. No, there was literally a line item for taxpayer money going towards transitioning mice.
Yeah.
And now CNN had to backtrack because they were giving out misinformation. It was, in fact, transgender mice.
Yeah. And the only thing he got wrong was the amount of money. It actually, the $8 million, he said something lower than $8 million.
Right. There's actually more.
There's actually more money. But you wonder what they, you know what I mean? Like, what did the people, like, I know, because they got to kind of do the facade of, like, something, like, where they're, like, these scientists in lab coats, like, really, I think they're probably just trying to figure out how to mentally persuade, like, they were probably doing that on the mice, but it's always for human stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I wonder if they were trying to create, like, a certain combination of chemicals that would cause humans to start feeling like that, you know? I guarantee that's something that they were working on.
So this part here, this article or this story,
oh, I seen that. Yeah.
Content. We're all.
It kind of makes me remember how earlier I was talking about you can't really say if it was truly Ukraine that did the directed denial of service attack on X, or they didn't even say who did the directed denial of service attack on Rumble, but that was happening at the same time, so you have to assume maybe the same group. But they could have easily hijacked a computer, or it may not have been. It may have been originating from Ukraine, but it may not have been the Ukrainians. But
yeah,
what puts the seed of doubt, and not just in the fact that a few years ago we were investigating them for fraud and corruption, but also that this guy Jamie White was assassinated by somebody who I believe was from Ukraine or hired by Ukraine or something. He was connected to Ukraine some way, and he was assassinated like right outside of his home.
Trying to send a message.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing though. Like that entire country, like, and them idiots don't want to admit it. First off, it was a Nazi stronghold. There were so many Nazis there openly, like real nowadays Nazis. And the whole country was completely corrupt. The government was completely installed, fake, and corrupt and controlled. The entire country was used for, it was one of the highest child and human trafficking centers in the world. And the corruption was just off the charts, and they used the entire country as their just big nasty cesspool of corruption. And like,
well, I mean, if you go and look at Russia, remember our friend when we lived on was it Grandview?
Gennady.
Yeah, he told us he would bring us to Russia one of these days, and he's like, but you have to stick with me because if they see an American, you'll probably disappear.
They use you for, just like in Mexico, ransoms.
Right.
Ransoms, money, whatever.
So we got this guy, Jamie White, murdered outside of his residence in a pool of blood. And like that, now we're seeing General Flynn, he just called and warned Alex Jones that it was confirmed that there's an assassination plot against him.
Oh, man.
Having him around the house for my wife.
Well, I'm sure it's against a lot of people that have stood up against the left.
I definitely love having them around the house. Great tool to have. Curated bundles. It's a great tool.
I don't know what he's talking. I thought maybe he was talking about firearms.
So it doesn't, maybe I just need to
it is a great tool to solve a lot of issues.
General Flynn has just called Infowars and confirmed.
On a side note, our range actually approves full auto on our ranges, outside ranges now.
Really? That's just recent?
Yep.
It makes me want to go pay the tax stamp, but then again, if I wait a few months, there won't be a tax stamp.
Just get an FRT, force reset trigger. I think that's why they did it. They're just ready for that. And I mean, look at all the shooting I was doing and nobody complained, so.
Yeah, it was just with your finger.
Yeah, there's nothing, you can't stop none of it now.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to go buy a force reset. But I don't know, if we wait just a little bit longer, the IRS is going to be gone, so there won't be a tax stamp.
Yeah, and we could also do our own too. We
right.
3D them, so.
Assassination plot actively being taken place against Alex Jones. Again, this is 48 hours after James White.
No, he clearly said, I'm on the Ukrainian enemy list.
Lost his life, and Chase Geiser has been getting swatted, which we're going to talk about in a second, too.
Freaking crazy.
Swatted.
All right. General Flynn tried to call me this morning while I was working out, and I missed his call, but he called my producer.
You better watch.
And said the same thing. Former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He said from his high-level intel sources, there is a contract out on me. And of course, it's tied to the Ukrainians. But this is just emblematic of how desperate they are, and that's NATO through the Ukrainians. Don't forget that it was a NATO operative from America, CIA, recruiting for the Ukrainian war, with the 6 cell phones that Trump talked about last week and all the passports that tried to kill Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, whatever happened to that guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Multiple.
I was going to talk about that, and I got sidetracked. So twice that a person not totally in favor of Trump has been in the same room as Trump with a firearm.
With a gun, yeah. And then they had to scatter jets because too many planes, a couple planes flew too close to Mar-a-Lago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's getting real.
And I didn't see too much about that plane that went down here in Pennsylvania the other day, but I think it was just like a small personal plane. But still, like, they're just falling out of the sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched it. Somebody put a reel. I think it was right around the same time I went to LA this past 3 weeks ago now. As they were landing, one of their engines died. And the pilot came on after he successfully landed the plane, because you could hear it shutting down and the plane was shaking, and he lands it and he's like, I've been flying for 35 years. That's the first time an engine has run out of fuel on me.
It's almost like they're kind of setting it up. Like, man, I don't know. I know if I was those pilots, I'd be triple checking everything.
Oh yeah.
Before I went anywhere.
Multiple cell phones. His brother had, a family member had a computer full of those types of images that the CIA and FBI are known to put on people's computers, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's their base of operations. So it's MI6 running NATO, doing this, and anything happens to me, Keir Starmer, Barack Obama, they're running their operations out of there, NATO.
Yep. See?
The Ukrainians.
I don't know if I told you guys this before. I may have mentioned it to you, Kane. Back in 2001, 2002, I worked for this renovation company. I was the warehouse manager, and the owner's younger cousin, was really right leaning, but he like Alex Jones and Infowars back, like when the internet back then wasn't really like, you couldn't stream a lot of stuff. So he got the VHS tapes and stuff from the website, and he told me, yeah, go check this website out. And like it tells you all about like the when they were first talking about putting chips in people's arms and for scanning and all this other stuff and barcoding and he's like, this guy's Alex Jones, and he's like he has all these conspiracy theories, but they all end up being proven true, and he has lots of facts about stuff. So one Saturday morning, or no, I'm sorry, Friday night. I'll go back to the Friday night when I actually went to the site. I started browsing his site and watching a few of the clips. They had small clips and stuff back then. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting because I used to watch the show Sightings and which covered like UFOs and aliens and psychics and all ghosts and stuff like that. So I was really into that stuff. My brother and I, older brother Joe, he kind of got us, like, he would talk to us about that stuff when he would come and visit. And so this is right up my alley. I like this. So I went to bed, locked my computer, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I come downstairs and I went to get on my computer, and I'm like, why is my computer unlocked? And like all these windows were open. So I'm like, huh. So I started doing scans and stuff and checking it out. Like, was it the InfoWars site? I don't think it was. Kind of seems a little too suspicious. And so that was my first encounter with Alex Jones. And I've been off and on following him throughout the years.
Yeah, but I think it was more than that. I think Dad, ever since he left the military, they think they kind of kept tabs on him.
Well, he did a lot of interesting stuff throughout his life.
We should talk about stories and see if anybody else see if anybody wants to talk about experiences like being threatened by the government and stuff like that.
What he's referring to is one day out of the blue, he calls me. This is probably what, like 2008?
Yeah, Obama was in office. Yeah.
Right. He called Kane here calls me, and he's like, was it you called me to tell me about the helicopter incident?
Yeah, but we were talking about building because with Obama in office and stuff, with everything going on and them being anti-Second Amendment and stuff, we were talking about creating home defense things.
Yeah.
That would be able to take out things like that, like flying objects. And moment after we hung up, I walk outside, and the weirdest, like, there was just a hum in the air. And as I'm outside with my nephew, I could feel something, but I didn't hear nothing until it was right over top of me. An Apache helicopter flies right over top of me, and next door is my aunt's one-story house. And he got as low as her roof and basically was pointed at me. And he did like a show, like he showed the left side, showed the right side of the rockets, and then he pointed at me with the main cannon on the front, and he sat there for a second. You couldn't see anything. There was no markings. It was just all black, and you couldn't see through the window or anything. And then he sat there for a minute, and as I moved, he kind of followed me, and I just stood there for a moment, and he nosed towards me and then took off and went right back from where he came. And like, I don't know if anybody's ever been near an Apache when it's flying. That thing is so quiet unless it is dead on top of you. You can't hear it, and it's fast. And it was just nuts. The neighbor was out taking pictures and everything, and I immediately called him, my brother, and started telling him, because like it all happened within like 10 minutes. And the only symbol that I seen on that helicopter was on the belly, and it was a very, very faint Pittsburgh Steelers symbol on the very belly of it, and you could barely see it. So I'm assuming that's where he flew out of, was Pittsburgh. But by the time we were done with our 10-minute phone call, they were there.
Yeah.
As I walked outside. Well, that was crazy. And then they started sending people to my house. I was staying with my dad at the time, and I had a place up in Erie, and people started coming to my house up there, checking around and looking for us and stuff like that. So it was kind of a crazy time there with Obama and everything else. So, but maybe we'll have to go over a lot of that stuff, because that house alone was, I mean, we grew up in that area, and there's just a lot of crazy things. There's actually a lot of reports in that area too about a lot of crazy things. So
right,
we'll have to see if anybody's got stories like that too.
It's looking worse and worse that they might have hired a group or something. That's what they do. To send a message to everybody with Jamie. And this is pure intimidation. This is terrorism. And it's all they got left.
Yep. They are in desperate mode.
Fight for America in the future. And like I said, I knew this weeks ago, but was asked not to say anything about it.
Yeah, they buried themselves bad.
Contact saying, "Hey man, did you say that because you heard that from us?" I said, "No, I got it from other sources about people coming to town in the last 3 weeks trying to kill Elon." And
yeah,
they're messing with trillions of dollars. Like I said the other day, people demolish countries for fractions of that.
And they got other crazies they've wound up.
Yeah, and we're talking like the higher up levels of trillions.
Not just in the middle of the night of Chase Geyser and his family, but with stuff coming in. I'm probably going to go ahead and cover it at 11 a.m. today. But the left is disgusting, and they're a bunch of pedophile devil worshippers.
Yep.
And we're winning.
That's it.
They're panicking. They don't know what to do. They think intimidating is going to work. Well, how's it worked out for you so far? I'm not scared at all. I am scared of not completing my mission. I've got family to take care of if I get killed.
That's the difference.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're all destroyed anyway, so we don't stop them. So they all get saved, or none of us do.
Yep.
So not suicidal, love life, and so they tell me it's suicide. It's a total lie. But this means we're really winning, because they don't want to turn me into a martyr. They try to demonize me, lie about me, have other rig court cases, plant child porn on us, whole stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, they're scared.
They're losing on every front, and they just don't care, and so they want me dead. And they want you dead with the poison shots, the GMO.
I mean, I know that Alex, it's Alex, right? But I mean, let's go to Chase Geyser. This is Chase Geyser swatted for the second time in 12 hours. Pictures are it never happened. Some people deny this occurs. I mean, here's the video of it.
Chase, are you inside? Can you acknowledge? Or Chase, can you step out with your hands up? Travis County Sheriff's Office, step out of your house now with your hands up.
I'm going to pause that for a second. So, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I watched because I watch a lot of body cam videos, like I said before. I watched one where police got it wrong. Okay, so there are a ton of videos of body cam footage of police going to the wrong address, thinking it's Fallujah, kicking in doors, and shooting the homeowner. Like, one instance, they knocked on this guy's door. They even joked about it on their body cams. Like, is this the right address? I think it's 5403. And he's like, oh, this is 5408. Oh, well, let's knock anyway at 2 something in the morning. And they're pounding on the guy's door. And he comes to the door with a gun, which is allowed. Like, somebody's at your door at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't know if they're friend or foe. You might have to shoot them. So he comes to the door, they back up, and he's like, what the fuck's going on? And he starts shooting at him. They shoot him dead. The wife comes down screaming, you shot my husband dead. Who's out there? She starts shooting from the window. Luckily, they didn't kill her, and they detain her. But, like, yeah, this stuff is no joke.
I think the first call, I mean, besides, you should be calling the local, 911 anyways, and reporting it to the local police.
Yeah, they're here.
But
What are
you
they
should
here
also
for?
you should also be calling the news and doing a live feed
Right. But the
immediately.
thing is, he didn't know, because you wake up like this other guy, similar situation. Sheriff shows up because they got a life alert at that address. Knocks on the door. The guy comes down at 3 a.m. or whatever, and he had a gun in his hand, and because the cop could see, like on front doors they have the side window, little slit window on the side. He saw the gun in his hand and starts shooting through the glass,
Mm-hmm.
and hits the homeowner in the groin area and up near the stomach. And as he's going down, the homeowner starts shooting back, and he didn't hit the cop, but the cop comes back. He's like, "Why are you shooting at me?" He's like, "Who the fuck are you? It's 3:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a gun." And he's like, "I saw a gun, and that's why I shot at you." So he goes, yeah, the wife comes down. She's like, "Oh my God, what the fuck is going on?" And he comes in the house. He's like, "I'm dying." And he's like, "No, you're not going to die. You're not going to die." He takes out his kit and he's trying to patch him up. But like, dude.
It's like that video I told you about the other day where the two guys are getting mugged by two Mexicans are getting mugged by a black guy. And they start fighting him, getting the gun away from him while he has a knife too. So the two guys are fighting when the cops show up, and they're yelling at the two Mexican guys to get off, and the two dudes are like, "Dude, he's got a gun, he's got a knife, he's trying to mug us," and he keeps screaming that, and I don't know why the cop didn't understand what he was saying, but at that moment, these cops are dancing around like little kids. Like they're like jumping up and down with their guns, and they're like, "Get off him, get off him."
And I posted this on that as a comment on that video. This is most probably the reason is because these guys get out of the military. They're not deprogrammed enough, and they think every situation is a hot zone in Fallujah. So they're just PTSDing, losing their minds.
Well, yeah, in a lot of situations where they're kicking doors in like that. But
right.
That situation, they just were not. I think they just were completely not trained.
Yeah, that's the other side of this. Hiring off the street and
of people who just should not be in that type of position at all.
Right.
Like they really shouldn't.
Right.
There's no mental evaluation, correct mental evaluations going on with some of them. But yeah, that guy, they ended up shooting one of the good guys in the arm, and then to top it off, the guy's saying like, "I'm bleeding, you shot me," and they're just like ignoring him. And finally they give him attention, and they put a tourniquet on. He didn't know how to put a tourniquet on. He put it up over his arm, didn't tighten it down, just kind of like folded it over, and you could tell it like wasn't even tight. And like luckily he was only like hitting his forearm. But like, if it would have been an artery or something, he would have definitely been dead. Right. Yeah, easily. So there's like, and I mean that was in California, but even places like in Chicago and Detroit, like any of the liberal areas, like 90% of the officers nowadays are probably undertrained, undereducated.
Right. They just hear, "Oh, it's a $70,000, $80,000 a year job. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I just got to spend like 5 weeks training." Okay, yeah.
5 weeks. Yep. That's the thing. Yep.
Time in 12 hours. Pictures are it never happened. Some people deny this occurs. I mean, here's the video of it.
It happens all the time. I want to know if they caught the person who did the calling.
Typically, it takes a long time to do that if they ever.
This is exactly what they did at my house.
So
every neighbor.
Are these actual police officers doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because somebody calls and says that at that address somebody's got a gun and they're threatening somebody. So the actual SWAT shows up thinking someone's going to get killed there, and
now
instead of finding out the truth.
In all fairness, I also watched videos where this one guy, he murdered his wife had the baby in the house with his brother. He called the cops saying, "Oh, somebody robbed me and they shot my wife. Send some cops here now." And when the cops got there, he's standing in a doorway and had his piece hidden behind his hip. And as soon as he's like, "Hurry up, man, she's bleeding out." And they come up to the door and he just pulls it out and starts opening fire. Killed two of the cops. They backed off. There was a standoff for like hours and hours. And they were trying to get the baby. He put the baby on the front porch so that they like
block the bullets. Yeah.
Right. And then every time they come up near the house, he would shoot at them. And yeah, so it's a very tough call because like you're going to each house, you don't know what the hell's going on, but like at least verify the address.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing too, though. Like that type of job, all the training and knowledge, like that's how it used to be. Like any bit of knowledge and training you should have, because that's the type of job that it is.
I know that's why military guys typically are prime candidates for this, because they already have somewhat of that training, at least with the firearms and how to enter a hot situation. But like, you need to get these guys deprogrammed a bit, because this is not a war zone.
Yeah. Well, at least most areas anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's not downtown Detroit or
Yeah.
Gotta fix your security cameras, Chase. AM and PM are wrong. There he is, right there. And there were dozens of attempts. This swatting moments ago, just before 2 a.m. 6 to 8 police officers used a PA system, call me by name, and order me out of my house. I was handcuffed in the middle of the street. I was then led into the house where my wife was woken up, and we were informed that they received a call from someone pretending to be me, issuing threats against my family. This is something that I personally have dealt with. The guy that did it to me is in federal prison now.
That's good.
He drops the soap a ton. And, I think that ultimately, it's hard to say this isn't related.
Well, you know what else is also dangerous? 6 to 8 cops.
It's hard to say.
I mean, we've seen instances where people claim they were the cops, and there've been 6 to 10 people. About it.
He obviously feels everything's related here. As far as I know, I can't remember if he had said, but he had not. This has never happened to him before. Oh, and let's not forget, InfoWars reporter Jamie White, lost his life on Sunday.
Young kid.
So Sunday night at midnight, InfoWars lead reporter or well-respected reporter Jamie White loses his life under suspicious circumstances. Monday and Tuesday, Alex is informed of a plan on his life, and Chase Geyser is getting repeatedly swatted. Now, to me, they're all tying this to the Ukrainians. What I'm afraid of, I think Alex would endorse this.
Homegrown.
What I'm afraid of is that just like the Tesla, DDoS attack that happened, I think that was also Monday. It's all being blamed on the Ukrainians.
Keep the tensions going.
Hey, maybe it is. We know they did have this hit list, and we know that Alex was on it. We know that Jamie White was on it. I believe Tim Pool was on it. But we also know that it's pretty easy to spoof an IP address, and that our own government generally is not very, or really wants their, runs an optics battle. There's, Iran, remember? The only two people that went after Donald Trump that didn't succeed in their attempt happened to be Iranian, right at the time when our government was saying, oh, we need to go to war with Iran.
Except the one guy, the second one that didn't even get the chance, actually was trying to join the Ukrainian army. And flew over to Ukraine and was over there like handing out pamphlets, trying to recruit people to fight in the war. So I don't know. It's all convoluted because they can't have it just be straightforward. Otherwise, you figure it out.
Well, it's the thing too. At what point, like, are they gonna just, go all out? Because there is a point where that's gonna happen when they're all looking at some serious time and things start getting connected. Like, there's gonna be a point where the higher ups are gonna be like, something needs done, and they're gonna go all out because this is trillions and trillions of dollars, and they're looking at a lifetime either being buried underneath a prison or a bullet in the back of their head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like serious stuff. So, like, at what point are they just gonna...
Civil war is still on the table. That's why all this this anarcho tyranny is happening, is to further divide, further raise tensions, force violence. Because if it sparks off, then we are really weakened, because now we're fighting each other, and then having to deal with an outside enemy, right? Just further compounds the situation.
Yep. We already have how many people that we are known of in the country already?
Right. Terrorist cells already implanted, and that's like they know this playbook because they do this to our government has done this exact same play-by-play on other countries when they wanted to get rid of a government there. Yeah. They sow dissension amongst the population, get them divided, fighting amongst each other about stupid shit, and then disrupt their economy so it's even more of an agitation. They spread propaganda, and then they topple the government and they install somebody that they can control. Which is what happened in Ukraine.
And there's big players too, big countries, because like look at the Panama Canal and the situation with China.
Right.
So they're obviously involved with a lot of the stuff, and the whole situation with Taiwan and that. So like there's big players that are doing a lot of stuff that are involved.
Right, and this is another portion of it.
One end. Democrats are fleeing the party. Approval rating for Democrats is at an all-time low, and prominent liberal personalities are starting to admit it. In this video, Ezra Klein talks about people
I recognize that son of a bitch.
Oh, this guy?
Yeah, that motherfucker.
Big cities in blue states, and how this is going to shift the Electoral College rightward. I hope it continues.
It's good, but it's bad because it's going to put more desperation in them. But it's a win. I'll admit.
Their policies are bad. Their ideas are
need to be
and people don't want to live in these cities. Now, for the average working class American, Ezra kind of hits the nail on the head with a hammer. The costs are too dang high, so they're going to move places where it's cheaper. But there's other major issues like crime. Releasing criminals has kind of made people not want to live in these areas. Let me play this clip for you, just a little bit of it. It's 15 minutes long. I'm only going to play you a few minutes in the beginning. And then I'm going to talk to you about where we go from here. And to put it simply, we knew that we were going to see a mass exodus from many big cities a year, 2 years ago. We didn't know how this would manifest. Would it mean that when liberals move to red areas, they make those red areas blue? But at the same time, if this weakens the political seats of power in these major cities, the question is, where will the balance shift? Right. If too many liberals move to red areas and then slightly overpower the majority red, making it majority blue, you will see more blue counties, more blue districts.
All right, because they don't, like I said, they have no self-awareness. They don't understand the problems that are happening are because of the way they vote.
They just carry it with them.
Right. They think, oh, I'll move here and I'll vote for this other Democrat because I'm a strict Democrat, and I'm going to vote for this person because they're telling me what I want to hear.
Yep. And they feel like it was just because of the area they came from.
Right.
Oh, it was just because it was that area. It's just because it was that city. Nope.
If not enough,
it's never them.
They don't actually change the shape of politics in rural areas, but they do diminish the power of major cities. This change is getting interesting, my friends. But let me start by showing you a few minutes from Ezra Klein.
Democrats have a problem that runs deeper than the 2024 election. They have a problem that runs deeper than Elon Musk's assault on the government. Look at the places they govern. Strongholds like New York and Illinois, and where I'm from, California. They're losing people.
Since the pandemic started, California is seeing an exodus, a mass exodus.
In 2023, California saw a net loss of 268,000 residents. In New York, 179,000.
New York City
Because you can't afford to live in either of those places.
But it turns out New York State is also seeing the population drop.
And in Illinois,
the Illinois residents have been fleeing the state at an alarming rate.
The state's population has been in decline for the 10th year in a row.
Why are all these people leaving?
Because they're tired of you.
The cost of living is too high. It is too expensive to get childcare.
It's almost like paying another mortgage.
It is too expensive to buy a home.
Very unrealistic to be able to put a down payment on a $2 million home with 2 kids surviving.
You end up having to live too far from your work. And so they're going to places where all of that is cheaper.
Every day someone is moving to the Florida area.
She got an apartment. That's why they want to make them 15-minute cities too.
Plus, there's a wraparound debt.
Yeah, I can definitely understand.
Go get that, 4-bedroom, 3-bath house I had in Texas.
I know these families. These families are my friends.
You don't know shit.
I've lived with them in these places.
Right.
And I've watched many of them move away from the place they love, the city they wanted to raise their children, because they could not afford to live there. You cannot be the party of working families when the places you govern are places working families cannot afford to live. You are not the party of working families when the places you govern are places working families cannot afford to live. In the American political system, to lose people is to lose power.
Indeed.
If these trends hold, the 2030 census will shift the Electoral College sharply to the right. The states that Kamala Harris won in 2024 will lose House seats and Electoral College votes. The states
You will be erased.
will gain them.
So in other words, you don't give a shit about people's financial condition. You just care about votes.
Right. In 2024. Yep. And also win Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and still lose the presidency. There is a policy failure haunting those states. It has become too hard to build and too expensive to live.
Let's analyze that real quick. Why is it that way? Because of government bureaucracy and bloat. Because it takes 10 people to sign a permit for you, and then they can decide arbitrarily, unelectedly, to deny you as a taxpayer and a voter. You should have the power to do what you need, not have some unelected bureaucrat sitting at a desk go, I don't like their political affiliation, so denied. Or, you know what? I feel like flexing my superiority today, so I'm just going to deny these 10 permits. For no reason other than I can.
And
that's what's being gotten rid of. Right.
Yep. They work for their friends. And then while they're at it, they're pocketing money, doing corruption, causing all the inflation in that area.
Right.
So they literally cut their own throats, and then they want to point at everybody else. Like they're always doing that.
Like the one lady complaining about having to email Elon what she's doing. Like it's offensive to her. Like
that she has a boss.
You work for us, not the other way around.
Our politics is split right now between a left that defends government even when it doesn't work.
Yep.
And a right that wants to destroy government, even when it is working.
Yes, but let me pause.
When is it been working?
The reason why the right wants to destroy government even when it's working is because they still don't believe the government should be responsible for these functions.
Right.
It is a question of morality and worldview.
Individuality.
Democrats defending government doesn't work makes literally no sense. There's no principle of let's keep funding a failed system that breaks everything. It makes sense.
Yep, destroys it all.
Someone goes, hey, you know, we got a car outside. We drive all the time. I want to trade it in. Well, why? It works. I decided I don't like it. It doesn't get good gas mileage. It does work, but I can probably do better with something else. Yeah. You see, even when the system that you use is working, there are still reasons someone may come to decide to stop using it. Right. The right doesn't like government for the way it functions, for the way power is distributed.
Right. The way it
say
imposes
it's
itself
clearance,
on you.
and these systems are
Yeah.
bloated. So even if they do their job, so what? To be fair, though, most people on the right just don't believe it's working. Democrats, on the other hand, are like, the system's completely broken. Everybody hates the DMV. Let's make it bigger.
What we need is a political party
Yeah.
that actually makes
Throw
government
more money at
No,
it that we don't
they
have.
Democrats can be that party. They
No, they
should be
can't.
that party. But it requires them to confront what they have done to make government fail.
Well, I'll give him that.
I could tell you a dozen stories. In my new book, I do.
Sure, and I'm not going to listen to any of that because
another
we're
new
talking about
book.
what's actually going on. Now, what I find most compelling in his opening of this video is not that he's going to say,
That's the other thing. I love how they're like, capitalism, bad. Buy my new book.
Buy my book. Yeah, buy my book. it's the number one go-to for all of them. All of them, every single one of them.
you know, Democrats make government work. No, government sucks. Government can do some things. I'm not completely opposed to government, but largely it's too big. So even if some things are doing what they want, look, let me put it this way. The Department of Education is doing exactly as the people who set it up intended for it to do. And the people on the right are like, sure, it's working, and we hate what it's doing. So we want to get rid of it. Democrats are fleeing these places because your policies don't work. When you say, make a government that does work, that's the problem. You keep taxing. You keep running these stupid ideas. It doesn't work. There's no merit.
Over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Isn't that referred to as insanity?
They do.
The way I like to analogize this is we get a wound on our arm. We get a cut. And what's the reaction? You wash it off, put some, antiseptics or whatever on it, and then bandage it up. That makes sense. So the Democrats start there and they say, hey, we've got homeless people. Let's set up a program, get these people cleaned up. Here's what we'll do. The state will give money to these nonprofits to try and solve the problem. Well, sure enough, they clean the wound a little bit, put a Band-Aid over it with these grants. And then a week later, a month later, homeless are still there. So they say, hey, I thought we bandaged and cleaned this up. Well, we did, but they're still homeless. Let's do it again. They slap a Band-Aid right on top of the other Band-Aid. Well, eventually the wound becomes gangrenous. It's infected. It's festering because you have to remove the bandage, clean it again, and reapply. Democrats don't do that. They stack money on top of money until the system fails. So
and then they wonder, oh, well, I guess it can't be done.
Resources and revenue.
If we can't do it, nobody can.
Right. Like when they said, oh, the border can't be fixed without this, and this, and then Trump came in and fixed it in like 3 days.
And all the missing kids, we can't do it.
Yep.
They're
Then
just
Trump
gone.
found them.
Activist groups, be it at the state level or the federal level, will perpetuate itself and resist being shut down. It becomes cancerous to the body politic. And what do you get? A correction. Look at this story from December, just a few months ago. Why more millennials are leaving big cities in favor of rural life. Well, first of all, rural life is based. I have chickens, lots of land, and I can play drums really loud. We don't have any drums set up, but at the other place we did. That's kind of easy, right? It's cheaper. The laws are better. You have more freedom.
Nobody bothers you.
But then, of course, let's directly address what Ezra Klein was talking about, perhaps New York. New Yorkers look to flee horrible city over soaring crime. Well, gee, who could have seen that coming? The policies of Democrats have made everything worse. The police department in New York is largely corrupt. I don't want to hear it, conservatives, when you're like, hey, man, you got to back the police. Sure. The Democrat-appointed leadership of the police department that brings on a bunch of people who don't care and don't want to care. You've got a cultural crisis you cannot solve. You have a morality crisis you cannot solve. There are a lot of good NYPD cops. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying the system itself. It's busted. It is. Cop shows up, sees two people fighting, and he's like, I don't know you, and I can't deal with this. Take a look at Chicago. I was, when I was,
look at Pittsburgh.
19.
Yep.
I was exiting Lakeshore Drive. I get pulled over. I was going 40 miles an hour in a 45. I was exiting at Belmont, and the cop says I was speeding. And I said, I wasn't speeding. I'm exiting at Belmont. I had to be slowing down. And he goes, tell it to a judge. And he threw a ticket at me. That ticket suspended my license, and I couldn't drive for years after that because it compounded a bunch of problems. Now, I hear from a lot of people like, oh, Tim had a problem with one cop. No, the issue was the cop doesn't know me, doesn't care how he's negatively affecting my life. I've had cops try planting drugs in my car.
Yep.
I had one instance, the first ticket I got was a cop was tailgating me at 3 a.m. on my way to work. And so I'm in the left lane. So I turn my right signal on, give the car a little bit of gas so I can create some space, and then merge to the right, let him pass. Instantly, he pulls me over. Same deal. Why would you start speeding when I'm behind you? The problem is not the individual officers or whatever. The problem is a system that doesn't work. And I say, I don't want to live in these places anymore.
Right.
Because they
Here,
have
pause it
quotas,
for a
they
second.
lie about it.
That's exactly
And
like
again-
when that state police officer, I took the car to test drive it after I fixed it, you remember? And Dad and you were coming to get me to go to work, and he pulled me over in my driveway, first off, and then asked me questions, and I tell him, my ride's coming to get me. I took the car like a block away just to see if it was running because I'm working on it. And you guys pulled in right after I told him I was on my way to work. And you guys were picking me up. And he says, no, if I wouldn't have caught you, you'd have drove it all the way to work. I said, well, why would I have turned around and came back to my house when work's that way? Wanted to be an a-hole about it, so I get a ticket. What was it, a year? Almost 2 years later, the same piece of crap. My truck Bronco 2 broke down on the bridge out by the outlet malls, and no need for any cops there. The guy I went to there was a garage right there I walked to. It was in the middle of the winter. Walked to the garage. The guy went and hauled it for me. That cop showed up out of nowhere, pulls in and just asking me some questions. He recognized me. I kind of thought he looked familiar. I didn't know who he was. Give him my ID, runs everything, and I told him, there's no need for nothing. This guy's grabbing my truck for me. It broke down on the bridge. We walked over here. That was it. He gets in the car, runs my ID, gives it back to me, says, have a good day. As we're about to leave, he jumps out of his car, runs over to me, and says, hey, let me see your ID again. And I'm like, why? He's like, oh, I just had to check something else out. Takes it back to the car, does whatever he was doing, comes back to me and says, your ID was suspended. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, your ID was suspended a few years ago or something. I'm like, why wouldn't that have showed up the first time? And he's like, I don't know, it's just the system or whatever. I got a bunch of fines from that day. I ended up actually losing my license, and it turned into a whole bunch of crap just because it was that same cop. And he used that old incident to do stuff, even though he never put anything else into that. I think what they did is he went into the system and had them. He did something because, you know what I mean? Why did he need to see my license the second time? It just didn't make any sense. And if it was suspended, he would have knew the first time. So, like, yeah, that cop, he caused me all kinds of problems for years after that, just because he just didn't like me or something.
Well,
but yeah, it's that same type of situation.
Hopefully that jackass is roasting in hell.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not completely about police. We're talking about crime. The issue I see is I'm in New York, or actually, let's talk about the COVID riots, the George Floyd riots. Famously, a guy said a fight broke out in his lobby as the rioting's going on. He called the police, and they said, sir, the city is under attack. What would you have us do? The reality for so many people is that as Democrat policy sees more criminals get released because they're insane and they're addicted to their cult psychotic policy ideas,
yep.
Regular people say, I cannot live in a city where the police don't answer calls, treat you like crap, and crime is skyrocketing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Democrats give you.
Yep.
And that's the reality of why they're going to flee.
Yep.
So, as we were predicting,
and then they want to spread it everywhere else like a disease.
Heavy to the right. And you know what? I'm here for it. Let's make sure we do it right this time. And when these cities begin to crumble and fall apart, maybe after these horrible Democrat ideas are purged due to mass exodus, someone like Trump can come in and clean things up like he did in the
golden era. Yep.
Well, it's like I haven't heard anything about Pittsburgh reversing their idea of from like the hours of, what was it, 3 to 7, 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. There's no cops on duty. Like maybe one cop on duty.
Where the most crime happens.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because a lot of people are just dead, and you just don't hear the reportings because who are you going to report it to?
Right.
Most people. What are you going to wait?
I remember one story. This lady had an issue, and like she went to the station personally because nobody was answering, and then it had like write down your problem and put it in the box, and we'll get to it.
Yep.
And like it was something crazy, like somebody was trying to kill her or something. Like
yep. That too. There is probably a whole bunch of stuff going on, but who's taking all those calls and messages? Where are those calls and messages going to? Do they have anybody that's handling any of that stuff, or is it just getting thrown away? And then after so many times, the person is just like, "Man, I really don't want to keep going through all this."
Right.
So they're just they making it look good because they're just probably not hearing anybody's issues. They just don't care. And that's the Democrat way. Unless it affects them, they don't give a shit.
But even when it does, they'll just scapegoat it or deflect. They live in such an insulated fantasy land. It's like that's why they don't have any self-awareness because they have it's not. They're not causing it. They can never be to blame.
No. They have no compassion or sympathy for anybody else because they're narcissists. They're sociopaths. Right. Almost like all of them. And that's why their mental conditions.
Me, I'm the victim. Okay. I'm not wrong.
Yep. You should believe my fantasy world. It's just the same. It's the same thing as all the trans and all the mentally disabled people. They want you to believe that their morals and their way of living is correct, even though it's completely wrong and and disturbing.
So, like, he's a prime example. I don't know if anybody was following the issue with Canada supplying electric to United States, but this shitbag, because he's throwing a tantrum about having to actually pay tariffs to the United States, he wanted to impose a 25% surcharge on American citizens' electric bills. And then if Trump didn't get rid of the tariffs, he was going to shut the electricity off in those states, which you really legally can't do because it causes loss of life.
But I'm sure that was Democrat policies that even made us get electricity from them when we have no reason. And we should not even be getting electricity from them.
Right.
There's no reason for it. It's just for a money exchange. That's it.
Right.
Because they already had tariffs on us too. So like, it don't make sense.
So here's him saying it out of his own mouth, just for those that don't believe.
Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
An unbelievable.
See, they talk tough though, but
which Donald Trump
both Canada and Mexico will
Why would our country allow
completely drown before the U.S. will even come close to drowning from the tariffs and the issues. So,
and you can imagine Canada stooping so low as to use electricity that so affects the life of innocent people as a bargaining chip and threat. They will pay.
It should be an act of war. If anybody dies from that,
for many years to come,
it should be declared as an act of war, and then we should just take Canada.
Escalation.
Right. That's what he said. Like. They will pay a financial price for this so big that will be read about in history books for many years to come. I love how he tweets. I have missed that so much.
I know.
That is exactly the appropriate thing to tweet back. Exactly the appropriate thing. Like, you do that, you don't even want to know the suffering that you're going to go under. Like, that's a leader.
Yeah. They're gonna find out. Here he
is,
right.
and he's trying to save face, but we know exactly why he's going to Washington because he knows that if Trump Trump threatened, he's like, I'll put an additional 25 to 50% more tariffs on your products. There he is, trying to
Bill, I
stay
had an
face.
opportunity to speak to Secretary Lutnick, and Secretary Lutnick has sent out an olive branch to us to come down and immediately meet with him, meet with the whole trade administration, and discuss the future. Rather than waiting till April the 2nd, threats going back and forth, tit for tat, I've agreed to suspend temporarily, and we always have that tool in our toolkit, until we sit down over the next day
Nah,
or two.
Trump should
We'll be
make
heading
him
down to
say
Washington, along
the
with
truth.
Dominic
I'm
LeBlanc,
coming here to
and
kiss
we'll
ass
have a
because
good
I was
discussion.
wrong.
You know,
He should
Mm-hmm.
force him to do that because they'll never learn.
Right. Right. I don't know. He knows why he's going there. You could see it in his eyes, defeat. Because he knows if he doesn't capitulate, his country is screwed.
Done. Yep, they're done.
Any negotiation that we have, there's a point that both
I
parties
mean,
are
even
heated,
Trudeau said it
and
that
the temperature needs to come
80 to
down.
90% of their economy survives because of the U.S.
Right.
And that's because of all the tariffs that they've put on us. So and then they get help on top of it. It's just nuts. It is nuts.
Right. It's akin to somebody going, "Hey, can I borrow some money?" And you give them like $30, and they're like, "Man, that's all you can give me?" Like, give me
I need more
100.
than that. Yeah, I need your car.
Yeah.
Let me get your car. You got gas for it? Like, it's exactly
Get the hell out of here.
I'm too proud to ask for money, but it's like if I need food, I'm going to say, "Man, can I get some food, please?"
Right. But you're not like, "Oh, that's all you have? Can I have?" Like, you're going to be like, "Thank you. This helps a lot." This has me concerned too.
There's been people down at the Lower East Side where you give them like a couple bucks and that's it. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
that's it.
Does it say ATM on my shirt?
People are bold.
Yeah.
They think everything's owed to them because somebody else has more than them. Well, no.
Yeah, shit, we didn't work to get what we have. Come on. Yeah, there was a video I watched. I watch a lot of videos while I'm working, by the way. It's easy to put on the background on one screen and just kind of peek over at it in between doing stuff. But watched a video where this lady was at, I don't know what she was recording it, probably for views or whatever, but she was going to give food to a homeless guy, and he's like, "But don't you have money?" She's like, "I'll get you whatever food you want. You said you were hungry." No, he's like, "No thanks," because he wanted to get drugs.
And then after that, the Democrats already has impeachment campaigns, and some Democrats have launched a new impeachment campaign against Donald J. Trump. That's right. And their petition.
Tell us you're guilty without telling us you're guilty.
1,000 signatures. Wow. Assuming that the signatures are as valuable as I expect, they may find themselves in a garbage sometime soon. Because I don't think these people realize that signing a paper saying Trump should be impeached
doesn't make him impeached.
No legal bearing
right.
or merit, but
he has to be guilty of a crime.
And of course, you get Al Green standing up and wiggling his cane at Donald Trump, getting censured for it. And then after that, the Democrats obstructed Congress by singing songs in the well instead of actually carrying out the censure of Al Green. My friends, I got a poll. Despite the fact that a lot of people are upset with Trump over a lot of issues, I kid you not, it's an Emerson poll, they still overall like the guy. And he's got a positive approval. Actually, I do need to pull that one up. It is absolutely fascinating to see that this is not working the same way it did last time. Donald Trump's approval in aggregate is net positive, has been for some time. To be fair, it's about the margin of error to be middle of the road. But this is the best of his career. And at a time where we've got an uncertain economy, there are still people who know, despite the fact we are facing these issues, Trump's the right man for the job. Now, I do have a lot of things to
Yep.
go over because we're going to break down
That's
the current
dang
state
sure.
of news today. It's not just about the impeachment. But while Democrats are saying Orange Man bad and must be impeached, we have, what's that? Inflation cooling much more than anyone expected. The price of gas and eggs both down.
And it ain't even got started
with
yet.
this looming trade war.
Yeah, because imagine April 2nd starts the reciprocal tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to jar things for a little bit, but I think the plan is once all of the tax returns and everything's cleared up, that's when he's going to finish, because the IRS is supposed to be getting rid of 50% of his workforce by now or shortly. I think the plan is leave the 50% that's there on and working till we clear up tax time. And then once tax time is cleared up right after the tariffs kick in, IRS is done.
Yeah. And the tariffs, once the tariffs start to level out, they should be getting the Doge checks sent out. And
Right.
that would
Maybe by Christmas.
Yep. Completely offset all that anyways.
So, IRS gets done after April, tariffs kick in, you no longer get 30 to 40% of your check taken off the top. That stays in your account or in your check to be deposited into your account. Then come around Christmas time, Doge starts sending out $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah, once they take income tax away, it would start flowing uphill.
Yeah.
I mean, because I file single, right? Because I'm single, like I don't have a family or anything.
Yeah, but look at how much tax they take.
Yeah,
they take a ton.
Yeah.
They take at least 18% in federal taxes for me.
Mm-hmm. And you don't get a chance to get that back because you don't have kids to claim or anything. Yeah, it's just horrible.
Yeah, I got my $2 back from paying in $29,000 in taxes. Like literally, federal income tax alone out of my check is $997 every pay.
And all this time too, they've always been telling everybody, "Well, the economy's bad. We just don't have any money." Meanwhile, they're stuffing it in their pockets. They're stuffing it in their bed. They're sending it to the.
We need more. We need more because it didn't work.
Yeah. Send me more. Send me more so I can buy whatever the hell they buy. Kids, other humans, like.
What kicks me is that's the exact number that I figured I needed to get an income increase from what I was working in my previous job to stay even. It's $30,000 a year, and they took it. Said, "Here, you can have $2 back from the loan you gave me."
Yeah, the loan.
It needs to be abolished.
Donald Trump's tariffs have all these Democrats freaking out for the stupidest of reasons. Then we can debate the tariff thing. Ontario back.
They don't understand
we'll
them. That's
see because we're still pending the resolution on how the tariff trade war plays out. But at the same time, Donald Trump has all.
I'm sorry, I keep pausing this, but that's like I read another article today, or it might have been on another video, where it was from one of those Reddit videos, and and in the video it outlined the actual fact of like if someone's IQ is like around the 90 mark, they won't understand when you ask them the question, and I forget what it's called, but like if you ask them, so how would you have felt yesterday evening if you hadn't eaten breakfast that morning?
Mm-hmm.
And people that won't understand it will be like, but I did eat breakfast. And they don't understand that. And then those type of people don't get, they're typically the ones that, well, I'm college educated. I'm superior intellect to you because I'm educated. No. Like,
yeah.
Also gotten Ukraine to agree to a ceasefire
We're
agreement.
still hungry.
That doesn't mean.
Yes. Correct.
Right now, as literally everybody in the Trump administration.
Yeah, that's funny too. He got the ceasefire to go too.
Yes.
Pretty quickly. Freaking quickly.
Well, they're coming to the talks. At least that. But I mean, at least if they're talking, they're probably not fighting. So technically, yes, but it hasn't been set in stone yet. They have to negotiate, and people need to understand. Like a lot of people don't understand negotiations is a give and take. You've got to give up something to get something. You're not going to just walk in there and go, "Give me the ceasefire."
Yep.
No, both sides will get something, and both sides will give something. And hopefully it's at a level that both sides can agree this is acceptable, and we will stop shooting at each other.
Is in Putin's court. That's their go-to phrase right now. Let's see if Putin actually entertains this ceasefire, which I think is in Russia's interests, so we shall see. But I got to tell you,
well, it
Trump
depends.
is doing the best job of any president in my lifetime. I can't speak to anybody before my lifetime. You know, a lot of people really liked Ronald Reagan, but I was not alive. Actually, I think I was maybe for the last 2 years. When did he leave? 88? I was born in 86. I'm not a big fan of his
That's okay.
cultural
My
policies.
favorite's
That's
Abraham
okay.
Lincoln,
He
but
saved
I
this
wasn't
country
alive
from
then.
Jimmy Carter's failures. Donald Trump's doing a really great job. They're going to be ending the.
I think I was like 8 or 9 around 85, 86. So, I mean, I was just barely young enough to, or barely old enough, I should say, to kind of understand some of the things they were talking about. But
yeah, it was 3.
Department of Education. I got to be honest. Donald Trump is basically preaching to me. Not kidding. Because all of these things he's doing with gutting the bureaucratic state, particularly the Department of Education, these are major issues for me. I absolutely despise American public schooling. I'm a health nut. It really does feel like this administration aligns with me more than any politician or political group, whatever, that I've ever seen. You name some NGO.
Well, the two major things that should be looked at is the intelligence of our future generations and their health, or all of our health. Like, those are some big things.
Right.
Like, those are.
But you contrast that with the agendas that the left champion for.
Mm-hmm.
Chemical castration, transitioning and sterilizing of children.
Mm-hmm.
They murder them in the womb. And yes, it is murder because you're deciding the fate of another living being. And it can claim it's a clump of cells, but those cells grow into something, and that something, since it's inside of a human, is a human being. Yeah. So you are erasing that lifeline of that human being.
As soon as that spark happens, when the sperm enters the egg, that's life.
Because if you destroy those cells will no longer become a human that functions in society. You've erased them.
And to be honest, can I say something about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to be honest, we really need to have the correct conversation. And the conversation that's not being had, it isn't about my body, my choice. It's about or whether or not, like, abortion is bad. Like,
morally.
What they're really saying, but not saying, is I want to have unprotected sex with the least amount of consequences.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Right. Yeah, I want to erase my mistake.
Consequences. Yep.
That's what it's about. It's not about bringing a life into the world.
Mm-mm.
It's about them wanting to have unprotected sex.
Yep. They want to use abortions as birth control.
Exactly. And I'm like,
I can't
going too far.
I can't afford a baby. Well, then why did you do the act that creates a baby?
Yeah.
Well, then use contraceptives.
Right. Or use, there's 2 other holes you can use.
Yeah, I know. There's that too. So there's you don't even have to use a hole. There's so many options.
They just don't want. That's the thing. They don't want to be told.
Well, I think a part of it also is the baby trap. They try to catch a man, get pregnant, and say, "I have your baby. You're stuck to me." And then when the man doesn't capitulate or they can't get the benefit, they're like, "I got to get rid of the baby because 1, I don't want to take care of it. 2, I got to try again."
Well, and the truth of it being pushed like it is, though, too, is it's just the slaughter of the innocents and spitting in God's eye.
Yeah, I
Like
believe
I
that's
mean,
fundamentally what's
yes.
behind it.
Yep.
Because we can
that's the
see
ultimate
all of the things the left have championed for, all of the sins.
against God. Yep.
Yep.
Against Christianity. And I think it's funny, too, like, a lot of the Democrats that claim they're Christians and Catholics and stuff, and, like, you can't even, like, how can you, like, you're doing some major mental gymnastics to try to justify yourself.
Yeah.
Like, like
I'm a Christian, but you know what? We'll just kill babies when it's not even our. Yeah, you don't
Just
even
gonna
have that
whim.
option. Like
Yep. And make somebody else pay for it at that. Like that's
oh
what they
yeah,
wanted.
make taxpayers pay. Fund my child murder.
Yeah. Like that's like I don't even understand.
If you look at it from the side of religion, that is basically forcing the will of Satan on those
everyone
that don't want to participate.
Yeah, it's like grouping them in because you're using their money. It's almost
Right.
like
You tie them to it.
Yep. You're making them sin too, in the worst ways. That's what a lot of it's about.
One of
like,
the worst,
like
the worst way.
Yeah.
Murdering of a child is unforgivable.
Yeah. That's what they did. Remember back when they were looking for Jesus? It was the slaughter of the innocents, and they were killing all the little kids, and they brought it into nowadays.
Yeah.
Except
it
it's
never
done
left.
in
It never
record
left.
numbers. Yeah. It's just done.
Laid dormant or hid
numbers.
in the shadow.
I mean, that was a little different back then. It's not like they had.
Well, I mean, child
Yeah,
sacrifice
it
has
wasn't
been around for
forever.
You know,
Yeah.
Herod issued that because the firstborn.
But think about that, though. I mean, it could be the same thing. They were looking to put an end to Jesus, and I mean, that's the exact same thing. Like they're doing now. Like if you think about like all the kids that have been aborted and stuff, even some of them kids, they might not have been Jesus, but they could have done
a lot
the
for this world.
greatest things. Yeah, the greatest things for humanity.
But then you also, you look at it like, okay, well, it happened, so it's part of the plan, quote unquote, because we have to learn. If we never get exposed to it, we can't understand
the nastiness.
Yeah, the disparity it causes or the pain. It's a lesson for sure. Mm-hmm. We don't like it to happen, and it shouldn't be happening. But it's something that teaches us.
Yeah.
And the issue is we don't know spiritually, like God has not revealed when the spirit goes into the body, right?
Right.
With conception and stuff. So we don't have the answer to that. Obviously, when the spirit goes into the body, in the mother's belly, that would be like, okay, like that's how we would know when it would be okay to abort and when it would not be okay. But the problem is we don't have that. The problem is we don't have that. Like, God
that's
has
why,
not
like,
revealed that at this time.
Like in the Bible, they say the light is that's what when you're born and you're actually a living thing is that light that God's light is given into you.
Right, and I've seen ultrasounds of the spark of light that happens when the egg is fertilized.
It's fertilized, yeah. It's literally such a burst of energy, like it literally gives off a big
detectable energy, right?
Yeah.
Right. But as far as God revealing it, like through his prophets, that hasn't happened yet.
That we know of.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it hasn't. And so, there are certain instances where abortion is okay, but those are the exceptions, right? They're not the rule.
Right.
Exactly. Those are the exceptions, not
the
what should be the rule.
Yeah, not just having one on a whim and just using it for like a birth control. Like that's
clearly not the way to go.
And we have their medicine's so strong you can go in the day after and make sure that like it doesn't happen. So like,
Yeah. Why wait? Yeah, it don't
Yeah.
make sense.
No, they're waiting
Well,
until like almost the 8th, 10th week, and it's like,
Yeah,
what is
making sure they're
wrong?
actually killing life. Yeah.
why didn't you just do it like the day after just to be safe? Do you know what? And then
That's
you wouldn't have all this stress to worry
that,
about.
that's where I'm saying a lot of this is
Just set
baby
up.
trap.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you,
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because they have medications for the morning after. Like so,
Right.
like the
Exactly.
whole abortion thing is just not even. It
It's
really.
and we have so much more options now
Yep.
that like abortion should be a lot less of a thing
Yep. But
than it
it's not.
actually is. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like if people were just responsible with themselves
Yeah.
but
and
Just
their
a
like,
little bit.
choices.
imagine being okay with killing a baby.
I mean,
Just
if I
whenever, all
was
the time.
no, it's crazy. Like if I was sexually active, I would make sure that I would be like
A little
being
responsible.
Right.
yeah, like I would be I would be making sure that I'm using contraceptives or like
Yep.
I'm making sure I'm getting all these crazy
My
vaccines
my partner
'cause
is stable, has a stable
Yep.
job, can, if I don't have a job, can support me.
Mm-hmm.
right, yeah, exactly that kind of stuff. So I don't it's not we're not having the real conversation what it's about. It's just
Correct.
not
No, they
the
don't
real.
see
It's
it.
a facade. It's a facade, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really just you want to have unprotected sex with at least
What I
person.
what I love seeing is the whole thing with the Pope now, like with because he approved on abortions, he approved on Islam, he even had the high priest of Islam in the Catholic Church, told people it was okay to go to Islam, told people it was okay for gay marriage and gay couples and trans and accepting of that, and he completely went against everything Catholic and Christian, and now on his deathbed, he's screaming about demons coming and getting him. Like that is like
Very
the
telling.
best thing.
Right.
Yes.
They're like, good
And it
good
got
job. Now
yep.
we're taking it to hell.
Yep. And like nobody like and it got exposed. Like they couldn't even keep it quiet. That's the greatest thing too. Like it's like letting people know like he fucked up. He
And he
fucked
found
around and
out.
found out. Yeah. It's that age now.
But people won't believe it because they.
Yeah, they don't think it's true, but they'll
But
find out.
like I often say, and I know this is kind of dark, but like I, just step out of their way and let them. The leftists are the only ones using abortion. It's
Yeah.
not conservatives. So they'll just make it more conservative leaning by their own
It's
will.
free will, yeah.
Right. All they're doing is hurting themselves. If you don't have
Mhm.
babies to carry on your view of the world, your view of the world dies out. It's plain and
No,
simple.
it's like it's horrible too for like because they've gotten black people so brainwashed too, like they don't realize like you're killing off your own race. First off, in abortions at record numbers, and then second off, because of the music, the lifestyle, and everything you live, you're literally killing off your own people all of their lives. Like they're
Right.
just literally knocking
Gang
each other off in
violence,
record numbers. Yeah.
abortions, committing crimes like
Yep.
crazy.
More than any other race they're doing themselves in. That's
Right.
what's nuts. And they still continue to support the people who are doing it to them.
Mm-hmm. Like they're gonna help them. They are. They're
Yeah.
helping them the way they feel like is the best help. We'll just eradicate you.
It's like somebody
That's what they're
sticking like
being used as.
50 knives in your back and you still are trusting them. Like, I'll stuff one more back there. I got some room. Like,
I know Chimera hasn't seen Babylon 5, but have you, Kane?
no. I've seen some of it and I know of it, but I don't think I've ever watched the whole thing.
there's actually a stunning parallel between African Americans and a race called the Narns, and basically they were enslaved by another race called the Centauri, and they finally get released from that, and they have all that anger and that hate, and they're all being basically slowly being directed against the Centauri, and all that's doing is getting them killed, basically.
Because they're so clouded with, and that's how it is too. They're so clouded with anger and everything else, and they're told to be victims.
Let's see the
really what it's
parallel.
like.
Eat the rich. It's your problems are caused by billionaires who don't even know you exist.
Yep.
What else? Oh yeah, like the companies that are paying your wage, they're only paying you that because they want to make a ton of money. It has nothing to do with the fact that your position in the company dictates your pay.
Yep. Your skin is what dictates who has more than you. Like they literally make them hate their own own skin.
Because your skin color, you will either always be a victim or you will be the victimizer. There's no gray area, and you can't get out of that role.
No, you're stuck. They try to make them believe you're stuck. This is it. There is no options.
And if you're the victim, you always have to hate the victimizer.
It's crazy. It is.
They have them so brainwashed and mixed up and turned around.
And angry. Like
you said,
like
nothing.
how they on the show. Yeah, they're just angry. They're angry all the time.
Like angry at the two people who aren't taking a paycheck and exposing fraud that is making your life miserable. You're angry at them.
Yeah.
They literally have exposed you to why you are living the way you are.
Yeah.
And you're pissed at them.
It is nuts. Well.
Yeah. So that's the reason why 250,000 people have signed this thing. They don't understand how impeachments work. They are blaming Trump for the problems in their life, that the people that are having them sign the petition are the ones that caused their problems.
And they give them this false sense of hope too. They think impeachment, like they all of them. They thought the first time Trump got impeached, they were like, "Oh, he's impeached." Like that's it. No, that was just taking him to court. Like that was like
that's basically charging him, like just saying you have to. What crime are you impeaching him for? Because just saying you're impeached, you have to say why. Why is he impeached?
I remember like all of them running around. They thought it was an accomplishment. He got impeached. Yeah.
It's like a cop going, "You're under arrest." He has to tell you why you're under arrest.
Yeah.
You can't just go, "You're under arrest. I'm putting you in my car." What crime did I commit? That's the same thing. An impeachment is just saying he's guilty of a crime.
Yeah.
And we need to investigate.
They're charging him with a crime.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Or
not even guilty.
Charging with a crime. Not guilty of a crime, but suspected of a crime is what I meant to say.
Yeah, you're throwing something at him that you're claiming.
But you have to declare what the crime is. You can't just go, "You're impeached. We think you're guilty."
And then there's got to be proof and evidence after all of that, too.
Right. You better have the receipts. This isn't a fucking socialist, communist country back in the, 1940s. We have evidence-based, and our criminal justice system is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
That needs restored, too.
Because they have it backwards.
Yeah, everybody's guilty until they try, and then they have to try to prove their innocence, and that's just wrong.
That is the opposite of how our system works.
Yep.
By fact.
It's about 1. I gotta be up with the kids. Are you?
Yeah, this was a good. Yeah, this was a good discussion. It was very very fun. We need to do it again. We need to be more consistent though. With like we got to pick a day and be like, okay, this is the day we're gonna do this, so that we all come in. We're all here starting, and we know we're prepared. I'll try to I was pretty prepared. I had these tabs saved for a couple days, and I'm like, it's starting to pile up. Like I have a whole other browser of like here more browser stuff Like it
I
just
do want to
keeps
touch
piling
on
up.
we should do a little bit of sections here, like we were saying with tech and stuff too.
Yeah,
Let
because
everybody know
we
about
started
tech and
off with I was talking about real briefly. We'll recap. Just talking about
has shown how the AI race is leading us towards mass unemployment.
maybe do a little
global
financial
conflict, and possibly
okay, that guy
extinction.
has a
look
gun
at
on it.
things.
Presents a striking solution.
So yeah, we talked about AI. We talked about NVIDIA doing its crazy depreciation of physics 32-bit, which means like games like Arkham Asylum or the Arkham Asylum franchise
Yeah,
basically won't
when
be
you're
able to play
paying
that.
more money and something is more advanced, it should do more things.
Right.
It shouldn't.
But I understand like to keep the 32-bit on might be taking up chip real estate, and they might be able to squeeze more CUDA cores of the 64-bit flavor on the die. I understand that it could be necessary to discontinue that, but that should be something that they tell you straight up front before they sell the product.
Why not add a way to backwards
there
compatibility?
is technically a way. If you didn't trade or sell your old card in to get this new card, you can put that in, and then you have to buy a motherboard that supports. Most motherboards do have an extra PCIe slot, but motherboard that you can put both cards in, and then you can go in the driver and tell NVIDIA driver to say use this GPU for physics, and then this one for the main stuff, the main processing. You can do that, and then it'll work fine. Because in the Digital Foundry video, they demonstrate exactly that. So he went from having 17 frames per second in physics area to then having, where is it?
Yeah.
So he went back up to like 92 when he added in. He had another card, a 4060 or something. He put in with the 5080 and told it use this card. But it doesn't have to be like a very powerful card to do the physics stuff. It just has to have the CUDA cores. So you could use like a 1050, a 1060, a 2070, whatever. As long as it's a GeForce card that has physics on it, you can just slap it in there as a secondary card and tell it use that. Which is
I have an AMD card because I'm different.
Right, but if NVIDIA starts doing it, it's potentially going to become a staple.
Yeah. That's true. And then you'll have to have two cards.
Right. Or somebody's going to have to come up with some type of extra software driver that does it more efficiently in the CPU.
Can an APU do it though?
If it's NVIDIA, probably.
Well, I mean, it would be.
I don't know.
NVIDIA doesn't have APU, right? They have, at least not on motherboards. It would either be Intel or AMD.
Right.
APU. But
I don't know how physics works. Physics is a proprietary thing to NVIDIA.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It is. Oh, I had a question for you, Jameer, real quick. If we are gonna go, it was a technical question.
Okay.
So I was watching this video, and apparently, if like you, and I've never heard of this before, and I'm like, what? Sounds scary, but that's because I've never heard of it before. If you undervolt your graphics card, you can get more performance out of it.
Yes, I actually do that with I did it with my 3080. I'd actually done that since I had the 1050 Ti. You get more cooling overhead because the algorithm that's built into the GPU is temperature versus power. So the higher the temp, the more it's going to throttle, or as the closer it gets to the ceiling of its power draw, like the maximum amount of wattage or power it can throw in there, it's obviously going to raise the temperature. But even if your cooling can keep the temperature down, it's going to hit that threshold of power and stop. And then eventually it's going to overwhelm your cooling system on the board, and then it's going to raise temperature. So the thought process is you find the lowest voltage that the processor will run at the highest frequency. And then when you hit that sweet spot, your card should actually, and that I find that on true with my 3080 and my 4080, that it will just peg on the clock speed. And like my 3080, it still kind of got up near the 85 C mark, so it would start to throttle a bit. But this 4080, I have it undervolted by 100 millivolts almost from when. And typically, what you want to do, well, you can find videos online on what you should undervolt it to, but you would typically let it run full blower and see what voltage it maxes out at. And then that's you want to bring it back, dial it back from that. Keep an eye on your temperatures. So like right now, this card, the base overclock on it, I believe, is like 26 or 25 or something like that megahertz, maybe 28. No, not definitely the 28, 27 maybe.
I don't think mine is overclocked, or maybe it is. I
It
don't know
should
about like.
overclock on its own. That's what I'm getting at. So like,
Oh,
as long as
okay.
you keep, because the algorithm is temperature and power. So as long as it's not near its power ceiling and the temperature isn't where it declares, because each card is different, it'll have a temperature threshold where it says, I'm getting to this temperature, I better downclock so that I don't hit this temperature
Okay.
threshold. So there's programs like MSI Afterburner, which will allow you to increase those thresholds up to a certain level. But if you undervolt, you also give it more room, overhead room, because the less voltage it uses, the less temperature it's going to generate.
Mm.
So then you allow it to stretch its legs even more. So like this 4080, off the bat, by just undervolting it by 100 millivolts, it gets to like, right now it's sitting at 2910, which is like I think 300 or 400 megahertz above its own rated overclock speed. So
Okay.
it has a base clock, but then like they say, okay, we'll overclock to like 2400 megahertz or something. So like just by undervolting it, I've allowed it to stretch its legs way beyond what the maximum overclock they rated it for. And like typically under load, I've never seen temperatures go above. Right now, I have it at a real good sweet spot. It never goes above 55, because I want it, once it hits 55 degrees C and it goes over that, it starts downclocking. So like it'll drop down from 29 to 28 to 2700 megahertz to try to keep the temperature at 55 or low, as low as possible. So the way right now when I have it set at is, even under full load, it stays at the 29 megahertz because it never goes above 55 C.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, I'll watch some videos. So is it pretty easy to undervolt? Do you just go into the BIOS and say this much undervolt, or and then
Well, yeah, you can do that with your CPU as well. I have my CPU, well, undervolted as far as the maximum voltage that people are overvolting it, or let it, like, you can't, typically for an Intel processor, you don't want it to go above 1.4 volts, like
I have an AMD
1.5.
processor.
Right. There'll be a similar thing for the AMD, but on Intel, 1.45 volts is like when you start to degrade the silicon. Like it'll degrade over time. So you want to be able to overclock but stay under that voltage on a maximum load, and it will increase the voltage on load. So like right now, I think I have mine at 1.32 volts, but it's overclocked to 5.1 gigahertz on the um, the power cores, not the efficiency cores. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh, yeah, like the real cores.
Right.
Not the
But the
fake
efficiency cores, I have at 4 gigahertz
Okay.
overclock, and that's where they're set to, and it's working fine. But like
Okay.
on your GPU, you want to find software, like I use MSI Afterburner, but there'll be software that for AMD's side that should allow you to move power limit slider, temperature limit slider, and your core clock, and then you just want to max out your power limit and temp limit sliders, and then you should be able to adjust the voltage at whatever frequency.
I gotta hop off, fellas. I will
Okay.
talk to you tomorrow, or Bud, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
Alright, we'll see you guys later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, I gotta head out too. It's 1:15. Holy crap. All right, guys. Yeah, we need to definitely do more of these. I want to redo. There was a stop motion set of videos that my brother and I did, and I forgot to record my voice into the video. So I want to redo that, but I think it'd be awesome if we were all watching it at the same time. So we'll have to do that maybe this weekend. But all right, I will talk to you guys later. It was great. Have a good night.
All right, see ya.
Sounds good.
Ever wondered how to bind keyboard keys to your gamepad buttons? The answer lies within a nifty tool called XPad One, available from the Microsoft Store. With this clever piece of software, you can not only bind your keyboard keys to gamepad buttons, but also control your mouse with the analog sticks. To kick things off, you'll need to create a game profile. This may sound technical, but it's as easy as pressing 2 buttons at the same time. Within any game, press the guide button and the start menu button simultaneously. Voila! You've just created a game profile. Now, the real magic begins. It's time to bind a keyboard key. The process is straightforward. Press and hold the guide button for 2.5 seconds. Don't worry about timing it perfectly because you'll hear a prompt. Next, press the desired keyboard key you want to bind to the selected gamepad button. And that's it. You've successfully bound a keyboard key to a gamepad button. If during the key binding you change your mind, after you have selected a gamepad button, you can press a different gamepad button and bind to the newly chosen button instead. At any time during the key bind process, you can cancel the key binding by simply pressing the selected gamepad button a second time, or press it twice if you have only started the binding process and have not selected a button yet. But remember, practice makes perfect. The more you use XPad One, the more intuitive it becomes. This software is designed to be easy to use but also powerful, giving you the ability to customize your gaming experience to suit your playstyle. So, why not give XPad One a whirl? It's a game changer, quite literally. Whether you're a seasoned gamer looking to switch things up, or a newbie trying to find your footing, this tool can make a world of difference. Bind your keyboard keys to your gamepad buttons, control your mouse with the analog sticks, and take your gaming to the next level. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Dive in, experiment, and see what XPad One can do for you. After all, the only limit is your imagination. Happy gaming.